and we will stand for Thank you. Thank you. And we remember those souls. May they rest in peace and be remembered for championing for democracy. So I'd like to now move to the less serious parts. Those were the serious parts of the event today. And as we were sitting with some of the fellows here, they were telling me that we are all fellows because we are fellow Kenyans in one way or the other. So thank you so much for reminding us that. I would want to start by recognizing the people in the room here today. And I'll start by recognizing, based on our position as Forum Civ, who we view as the most important people in the development space. So I'll start with the communities. We have people from Githurai, Please, you can wave wherever you are. Watu wa Gedho, we stand in solidarity with you. We know what you went through during those very difficult periods. We have people from Mukuru. Watu wa Mukuru, karibuni sana, and thank you so much for making time. We have also people from Kangemi. Watu wa Kangemi, thank you so much. And then finally we have a community from Mathare. Watu wa Mathare, thank you so much. I also would wish to recognize the CSO partners who work very closely with the communities. We have HSF in the house, so wherever you are, you can wave your hand. Thank you so much for making time. We have VSO International. Thank you so much. We have a state agency. We have Kenya Law. Kenya Law, I know they have a stand outside and they are displaying some of the laws that we have, including the Constitution. And allow me to mention that when we were having a conversation with them, how many have a copy of the Constitution in their house? Okay. How many carry the Constitution in their bags? Thank you so much, Kashero. Thank you. Oh, I'm also reminded how many carry it in their phones or on their phones? In their phones. All of us. Thank you very much. So unfortunately, the days of getting a free constitution, a copy of a free constitutions are over. Imagine that the constitution that if you don't have a copy, you will have now to buy. And I remember back in the days, constitution were being given, everywhere free of charge. So something to ponder about. Are we moving in the right direction even as we celebrate democracy? We have the Institute of Social Accountability, TISA. Yeah, the back. Thank you so much, TISA. We have Rao Wallenberg Institute, RWI. Not in the room yet, but they should be joining us. We have Joywo. Joywo, not here yet, but we recognize them. Women Human Rights Defenders Hub, WHRD, not here yet. Amnesty International, I'm told they will be joining us later. Kenya Human Rights Commission. Yeah, thank you so much for coming. We have the Embassy of Sweden with us. And then finally, we have Strathmore University Business School with us as well. Thank you so much. We have other partners as well who we have worked together to organize this event. So I'd wish to also recognize them. We have Badili Africa. Thank you so much. Let's appreciate them. We have Akili Dada. Akili Dada, thank you so much. We have Andy. Thank you. We can give them an extra and appreciate them because they support persons with disability. Hold on. Exactly. I see. Can you show them how to do it? Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Then we have Githurai Social Justice Center. Thank you so much, Githurai Social Justice Center. Mui Mukuru Youth Initiative. Asanteni. CGHRD. Thank you so much. Kilifi Citizen Forum. I think they are the farthest. Watu wa kutoka Pwani. Then we have Isiolo Gender Watch. Isiolo, the team from Isiolo. Thank you so much. And we have Haki Africa. Haki Africa, thank you so much. So having recognized our partners, and we really want to appreciate your coming, we now wish to also recognize the VIP, or is it the VVIP? The 2024 NextGen Leaders Fellows. Please, wherever you are, you can stand so that people, Fadhali, the 2024 NextGen Leaders Fellows. Thank you so much. Those are our key guests for today, and I'm sure we'll be getting to interact. As you also know, Forum Civ, together with the partners, have also been working on an activism fellowship. So we also have in the house, freshly minted from a residential camp, the 2024 Activist Fellows. Are you in the house? We can't hear you. That's not how artists respond. Are you in the house? Are you in the house? Great. So thank you. Thank you. And I'm asking somebody who can see Jackson to kindly ask him to join us in the room. But as we celebrate this year's day and as we kickstart the conversations, I just wanted to put in a few facts that we can ponder on this day. One, this year in January, the World Economic Forum identified democracy and the issues of misinformation and disinformation as one of the most immediate threats to democracy and good governance. That notwithstanding, we have seen the rolling back of steps that have been made in championing for democracy, most recently in the elections that have been held. And this year will be very key for anyone who is observing issues of democracy, because 8 out of the 10 most populous countries are also going through an election. And it's good to keep an eye on that. But this year's theme also that talks about artificial intelligence and how it can actually affect democracy and good governance is also something to ponder on. So I want to challenge you that as we have these conversations today, because we are all leaders in one way or the other, you will encounter a leadership moment. How are you going to respond to that leadership moment? So I'll be coming back later on that. But at this moment in time, I wish to invite Jackson Obare to make his remarks. Let's applaud him as he comes on stage.
Thank you so much, Titus. Good morning, everyone. Are you happy? We have one artist called Will Oeba who asks people whether they are happy to be here or they are here to be happy. What are you here to be for? Both, right? And with you having taken breakfast this morning, I know we have all the energies to celebrate because it's a celebration of the International Day of Democracy. And once more, happy to be seated with George. George is a Hawala. He's been introduced by Titus, working with VSO. Apologies from the Danish embassy. We were to have one of the representatives, Joseph Kimani. He had an emergency this morning for a meeting in Toronto. So he has requested his presence to be with us and celebrate with us on this day. In the last few years, I've also become a storyteller, so that before I give my opening remarks, one bright sunny morning like today, because we are from a very cold season, 2 people named the Naked and the Lie found that the weather was so nice and they needed to go bask, and they were saying, wow, the sky looks amazing, and they were having a chat. After a while, you know, if you are having a chat, the sun is up and the weather is so cool and there's a swimming pool, what do you do next? You have to enter into the water and swim, right? But you know, the truth and the lie, while in the swimming pool, so the lie decided to get out of the water and they took the clothes of the naked. I think you know the story. But if you don't, I'm going to finish my story. And if you are both in the swimming pool, and you put clothes, but I have to assume it is not that, nowadays people go swimming pool, they have the swimming clothes, but I have to assume this must have been a context of a village. And maybe you went into the river. And in the river swimming there are no swim clothes. People just remove their clothes and they enter into the water, right? And now the lie comes and picks your clothes and left the truth in the water. I mean, if you run out of water naked, and people will think you are a madman or a woman, isn't it? So today, when the furious truth decided to come out, he ran everywhere to find the lie and to get her clothes back. So the world, seeing the truth naked, turns its gaze away with contempt and rage. And of course, people would be very unhappy. The poor truth returns to the well and it disappears forever. Hiding therein, it is shame. Since then, the lie travels around the world, even here with us, dressed as the truth, satisfying the needs of the society, because the world, in any case, harbors no wish at all to meet the naked truth. This morning, as we celebrate the International Day of Democracy, are we ready to face the naked truth? Or we are here to be facing the lie that dresses like a naked truth? So I'm going to speak today's theme. It has two components on how we are going to use artificial intelligence in promoting the work of democracy. So with that, now I want to ask to start to give my opening remarks. Thank you, Titus. And as I say, as it is the day of it's the International Day of Democracy, and we are gathering here to celebrate the values that underpin our democracy in this country, Kenya. That is the freedom of expression, equality, and justice. As we reflect on these principles, it is crucial to consider how we can strengthen and advance them for future generations following the events of the demonstrations in Kenya, and how quickly we have noticed we can regress as a nation. In this spirit, I'm honored to speak about two important components of our democratic future. One, the empowerment of the next generation and the use of artificial intelligence for good of governance. As we also celebrate today, it is imperative that we focus on two of these interrelated aspects of our future and ensure that the nurturing of the potential of our youth and harnessing the power of technology to create a more just, efficient, transparent, and sustainable society for all of us. The synergy between these two elements can lead us to a brighter and a more equitable future. So artificial intelligence is here with us. That's technological progress, but we also dealing with the issues of the young people. The young people are the leaders of today and the partners of tomorrow, in this sense. That's why we can't be saying you are the leaders of tomorrow, because you are already leaders of today, and the tomorrow will bank on you to be for the partners of the development we so desire in this country. So allow me to talk more briefly about empowerment or empowering of the next generation. And this speaks to the launch that we are also going to have today of the Next Generation Fellowship Program. We did an application, we did put an advert out there for young people to apply for the fellowship program. The results, 494 expressed interest to participate in the fellowship program, but we don't have resources to take the 494 participants for this kind of training. We don't have the money. And we needed only 20. And these 20, a selection has been done, and we have 10 males, 9 females, and there's an additional 1 person, a trans person attending. So they are all 20 participants. But within this cohort, we also have people with disability to ensure that no one is left behind. Inclusivity is a very important thing. So at this point in time, allow me to ask all the fellows who are going to go through this program to stand up. Where are you? I want to congratulate you for making this far. Thank you so much for making it. You may sit. Kenya as a democracy will thrive when all citizens are engaged, informed, and inspired. And we have learned this from the recent rejection of the finance bill, that as a democracy, every Kenyan needed to participate for that decision making. That non-participation brought the falling of the Finance Bill 2024. And also it awakened other things that have never been fulfilled before, underscoring the need of engaging this generation. The current and the next generation will shape the future of our democratic institutions profoundly. So it is our duty to equip them with the tools and opportunities that they need to succeed. And that's what we are doing. As even we celebrate the International Day of Democracy, are we equipped? Are we empowered? Are we inspired to create the change that we need for now and the future generation? The empowerment of the next generation, as we are living in a very extraordinary time and a lot of changes are happening, and thus the young people of today will inherit both challenges and opportunities of tomorrow. You have both. If there are challenges, you will face them. If there are opportunities, they are coming as a package. How are we preparing this generation to confront these realities? And therefore, it is important to equip them with the skills, knowledge, and the mindset necessary to navigate and shape the future for prosperity. And we are also doing in many ways. Mentorship is another form of empowering this generation to confront these realities, as it plays an important role by pairing the young people who are going through the program with professionals of industry captains or leaders to engage them and give them a proper guidance for the future. And offering this guidance will help to match two things: your theoretical knowledge and the practical realities that shapes your future in terms of addressing the realities. Participation. Kenya is a democracy, and I've said if we don't encourage participation, decisions will be made that we have not contributed to. And as such, decision-making process and the spaces, we every time say we want involvement of all people, youth, women, every category or citizen of this country. And to promote democracy and accountability, we need to participate in decision-making places. So when young people are given the voice and the platform like this one, they are more likely to be invested in their communities and in the future of their society. Initiatives that have also been undertaken in this country, I have to mention, I know my friend Karen Wakori, they have Emerging Leaders Foundation, programs of empowering youth, and this one that we are also starting, NextGen Fellowship program, among others that are also in this country, will go a long way to provide the necessary tools and the platforms for the young people to nurture their skills. Allow me now to also to mention about the artificial intelligence and the role in good governance. AI has the potential to revolutionize how we approach issues of public administration and management, how to be more transparent, how to be more efficient, and how do we become more responsive. But I would also speak about, as we look at AI to give us opportunities, because technological progress, it also comes with some costs. And these are the costs that we shouldn't forget. In our country, we don't have access of internet across the country. So the digital divide issues comes on board. We also have people who don't have the capacity to access this. So we need to trade very carefully. How do we deploy AI in ensuring good governance without leaving anyone behind? And that's an important aspect to consider. But AI is here to stay. The way internet came early 2000, people did not want to embrace technology. But what happened? If you did not embrace technology, you are left behind. Artificial intelligence is here. If you don't participate and they use it for common good, then you'll also be left behind. How does it promote transparency and accountability, which is the central part of our democracy? AI can play a transformative role in promoting these values of accountability and transparency and providing real insights into government operations, public spending, and the policy impacts. Allow me to use the example again during the Gen Z movements. We were able to see how AI was used to even track the performance of our leaders. What were their pledges and what have they been able to perform? What kind of cases each of these leaders is having in court, how these cases have been resolved, whether pending or rejected. That is courtesy of artificial intelligence, and this information is so powerful, and it was in real time. If we use it, we'll be able to make our country more transparent and more accountable, and we ask our governments to make use of technology for common good. Efficiency and effectiveness are also critical components of effective governance, and AI has been instrumental or will be instrumental in streamlining bureaucratic processes, reduce administrative burdens, improve service delivery. We see this through automated systems. You don't have to be, lining up to make payments when the systems can be automated and you make your payments and get the service. So this is because AI has been put into better use, and we believe efficiency and effectiveness being the pillars of accountability and the transparency, all put together, ensuring that you have a fair and democratic governance system, will all lead to an inclusive and responsive society. While the potential of AI are immense, as I mentioned, it is essential to approach its integration with caution. We must address concerns relating to data privacy, the bias that comes with the design of the programs, and the digital divide that is used to ensure information is shared. But ethical consideration is one of the factors to be considered while using artificial intelligence. Because if you don't have solutions that are ethical and equitable in nature, you still continue to make society more unequal and therefore not achieving the intention of having a more just and sustainable world. The intersection of the youth empowerment and the artificial intelligence is also offering an opportunity to enhance democratic governance. By involving you guys, young people, in the development and implementation of AI-driven solutions, we can ensure that these technologies are used in ways that align with the values and the needs of our society and for the future generation. This collaboration not only prepares young leaders for the challenges ahead, but also it fosters a more inclusive and forward-thinking approach in terms of governance. As therefore we celebrate the International Day of Democracy, let us commit to investing in the next generation and leveraging artificial intelligence to build a more transparent, efficient, and inclusive democratic society. The Swedish government is leading from the front. And today, we have a young person, a youth, an intern at the embassy who is going to speak on behalf of the embassy as part of the empowerment. And this is borrowed from next year, from last year, December, we had Democracy and the Human Rights Festival. We had 2 interns attending the event, and they posed questions to the head of development cooperation and a challenge. How do you empower young people to take leadership? And therefore, what the embassy has decided is to walk the talk. So Alf today here, who is going to speak on behalf of the embassy, is speaking on behalf of the Swedish government as an intern at the Swedish embassy in Nairobi. So it gave me an indication, maybe in the next event, I will also not be speaking. I'll be picking one of our Gen Zs in the office, empower that Gen Z to speak on behalf of the organization. And we keep doing that in the events that our partners have. So don't look at them that they are too young not to speak. They have the mastery, they have the content, and they have been prepared to carry that mission. In conclusion, the path to a better future lies in our ability to empower our youth and harness the potential of artificial intelligence. By investing in the capacity exchange programs, mentorship, fellowships, and civic engagement, we can prepare the next generation to lead and innovate. Simultaneously, by leveraging artificial intelligence to enhance transparency, efficiency, and responsiveness in governance, we can build a more just, sustainable, and equitable society. As we gather together, therefore, let us embrace these opportunities to work towards a future both our young leaders and our technological advancements contribute to the common good. Thank you so much, and we look forward to celebrate this day all together. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you sit, thank you so much. I want to mention 2 things. One, today is Jackson's birthday. So even as he delivers a speech on democracy, what a day to be born. Yeah? And what a leader to have. Born on the day that we are defending and leading the front on fighting for democracy. So maybe we can do one round of happy birthday, dear Jackson. Happy birthday, dear Jack.
To me.
Happy birthday.
To me.
Happy birthday.
To me.
Happy birthday. May you continue fighting for democracy.
Thank you.
May you fighting for democracy. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Let's
so
give him
much.
an applause as he sits. Santi Sana Jackson for setting the tone on what the discussions today will be. And I know we all have the program in our hands, but sometimes nature has a way of flowing like a river. So I want to now make a small change to the program. And because Jackson has already done half of the work that I was supposed to do, in terms of introducing the speaker who would be speaking on behalf of the embassy. As Jackson mentioned, they have walked the talk. And the challenge for us is, how do we walk the talk in our own spaces? So it's now my pleasure to invite Ralph to speak on behalf of the Embassy of Sweden. Let's give an applause as he comes up.
So I want to start off by saying I rest on the protocol set by the previous speakers. Good morning, all. So yes, that's right. This year, the Swedish Embassy gave me the privilege to represent the embassy here today. They even sent me up on stage all alone. Can you imagine? And this is the first time I'm doing something like this, so please bear with me. Sweden has been a long-time partner to Forum Civ, and we acknowledge the good work they do together with their partners. So, my name is Ralph Westerberg, and I have an academic background in computer science and artificial intelligence, but also social anthropology. So my work has been in trying to combine social science, but also AI, working with questions like how do you say it? Like how can AI affect democracy, or how do we use AI in working with law firms and etc. And the theme for today is ensuring effective governance of artificial intelligence, a subject that is becoming increasingly important in our digital era. So, artificial intelligence, AI, has the potential to greatly improve government operations by increasing transparency and accountability. For example, AI can be used to track public funds and make sure resources are shared and used fairly. AI also has the capacity to improve public service. This includes automating admin processes, improving healthcare through predictive analytics, and improving law enforcement by providing data-driven insights. So in practice, AI can simplify government functions, detect fraud, and predict social trends. And this will make government systems more efficient and responsive to their citizens' needs. Additionally, AI can assist in policymaking by analyzing data related to social, economic, and environmental factors, promoting evidence-based decisions that better serve the public. However, there are also concerns. Issues like surveillance, data privacy, and the spread of fake news are serious challenges. AI-driven systems, while efficient, can be used to manipulate public opinion or spread disinformation, threatening the privacy of democratic processes. Furthermore, the increasing dependence on AI could undermine the openness of society and increase power to those who have control over the technology. Though, I don't think we should fear AI, but we should embrace it. To maintain public trust and uphold democratic values, it's important that AI systems are designed to be fair, transparent, and responsible. And in that, we all have a responsibility. So when we discussed at the embassy what Sweden wanted to convey today, we actually asked an AI. We told AI what we wanted to say, and then we asked an AI tool to do the job, to write the speech. An AI tool that's actually provided by our government. As you hear, these remarks have been on point. But by using AI to generate this opening remark, we demonstrate how useful this tool can be. But we must also recognize our responsibility to use it in a way that reinforces an open and democratic society. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you sit, we can give him a better applause. And I think there's an AI thing in the room, because I also asked AI, what would be a great question that you'd ask a leader about the use of AI? So as a leader in AI, the question would be, how do you envision the Swedish government leveraging on AI to enhance decision making while ensuring ethical and transparent practices?
So I think the major problem with AI systems today is that it's biased. So when you create an AI system, you need to use data to train the AI system. And the choice of what data you choose to train and kind of implement the AI system with affects directly the outcome and the information that this AI is going to give you. So the important thing is to train AI systems with data that is not biased, that's not biased, and that has a neutral standpoint to political and ethical questions. Because then we can create an AI systems all over the world that's been used fair and responsible.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Let's
you.
give him an applause and thank you so much. I can have your seat, and I also wish to recognize your colleague intern who has joined you. I'm trying to get the name right. I think we'll be Mona Abdi. So you can wave to the crowd. Thank you so much. And I mentioned at the beginning that we are all going to encounter leadership moments, right? So I hope you are very keen to look around yourselves and be conscious enough to realize what is my leadership moment. I just picked one from Ralph, that AI needs to be trained, right? So if we are sitting here and waiting for other people to train AI, then 10, 15 years after, we come back here to complain that AI has the wrong things. Are we taking leadership? So what is your leadership moment? Train AI to be ethical, not to be biased, to be African, like George is saying, because if you don't do it, nobody will do it on your behalf as we prepare the next generation. This is your leadership challenge as you live here. So to continue with the conversation, I now would like to call on stage the next speaker who would speak on behalf of Strathmore University. Mr. Shadrach Mwangangi, you can take the floor. Let's give an applause as he comes up. And I know he's already picked the rhythm that the next question will come from AI. So please, anyone in the room, the next question from AI to Shadrach. Karibu sana to the floor, Shadrach. There's a mic on.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not sure I can answer the question on AI, but I can sure answer the question on leadership. My name is Shadrach Mwangangi. I'm the Director Executive Education at Strathmore University Business School. Jackson started by saying he's a storyteller. I'm trying to learn how to tell stories. And so I'll start with one. And a story is told of a wise man in a certain village who everybody went to seek guidance, to questions that seemed not as simple. And he almost always had an answer. And this one boy thought, that is not possible. There should be a question that this guy is not able to answer. So what the young man did is looked for a sparrow. And what he thought is that I'll hold it behind my back and go to the wise man with an intention of knowing and asking, is the bird alive or dead? And depending on which answer the wise man gave, then he would do the opposite. So this young man goes to the wise man and does exactly that. And when the boy asked the wise man, is the bird alive or dead? The wise man took time, looked at the young man, and told him, the destiny of that bird is in your hands. And I think that's the conversation we are having today. As we celebrate the International Day of Democracy, ladies and gentlemen, the destiny of how democracy looks like is in our hands. And now, I knew I would go off a tangent, so I made sure to put my thoughts in a speech. So you will allow me to read my speech. And so it's a great honor to represent Strathmore University as we celebrate and commemorate the International Day of Democracy. This day reminds us of the vital role democracy plays in promoting peace, justice, and human rights. It's also a moment to reflect. For me, I think it's a reflection moment, and a reflection moment on our democratic journey as a nation, and how we as individuals can contribute to the success of that democracy. When you think back, Kenya's path to democracy has been marked with great progress. Most notable, the adoption of the 2010 Constitution. One of the African iconic leaders, Nelson Mandela, once said, democracy is the most difficult form of government. Only the strong can maintain it. The struggles we face in the fight for democracy remind us that democracy must be nurtured through participation, accountability, vigilance, and most importantly, unity of purpose. Today's theme, Empowering the Next Generation, speaks directly to the core of democracy's future. The youth are not just the leaders of tomorrow, they are change makers of today. Former US President Franklin Roosevelt observed that we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. And I think when you listen to my colleague speak, Jackson, he talked about empowering the youth so that we own our destiny. And so today, as we look at this, then we are thinking, how do we equip the next generation? And so our responsibility is to equip the youth with the skills, with the knowledge, create the platforms they need to engage in meaningful democratic processes. At Strathmore University, we believe that education is key to this empowerment. We are committed to creating spaces where young people can become ethical leaders, where they can challenge the status quo, where they can exercise their innovative mind. And this is towards creating a more just, transparent society. One author who is also an educator, Paul Friel from Brazil, says that education does not change the world. Education changes people, and it is the people that change the world. And so I'm excited that in the same breath, later today, and Jackson again talked about this, and congratulations to the 20 young leaders that are going to be in this program. And so later today, we're going to be launching the NextGen Leaders Fellowship program. This has been developed in partnership with Forum Civ. This initiative is designed to provide young leaders with real-world skills, mentorship, and networks needed to lead with integrity and purpose. This will ensure that the next generation has not just the tools, but the confidence to become champions of democracy, not just locally, but globally. At Strathmore University, we understand the role of academia and that it is not just confined in the classroom. And that's why we have partnerships like with Forum CIV. That is why we have conferences. That is why we have conversation platforms. And therefore, this extends to shaping civic-minded leaders who can influence public policy, fight for ethical governance, and advocate for social justice. I noticed that I have one of my directors here. We have research centers in Strathmore. And why is that so? Because learning does not just happen in classroom. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of thought leadership that goes into changing the society. And so we have the Institute of Public Policy and Governance at Strathmore. And that is the center, that is the institute that's shaping the conversations around public policy, governance, democracy. And later, as we have the panel conversation, you will hear from the director of that institute. Through partnerships like we have with Forum CIV, we are actively contributing to the strengthening of democratic institutions. But ladies and gentlemen, this journey is not without its obstacles. From corruption to media restrictions and the challenges of election integrity, the road ahead as a result requires commitment. Commitment to the use of resources that we have. Are we talking about the digital space? Are we talking about artificial intelligence? Are we talking about what do we have as resources? It requires our commitment. And to the young people in the room, I say, your voice matters. You have the power to reshape the future of Kenya, the future of Africa, to demand transparency, to uphold justice, to build a more inclusive society. You have a voice. As I conclude, I want to applaud institutions like Forum CIV who ensure and have continued to ensure that we remain true to the democratic journey. Let us remember that democracy is not a responsibility of a select few. It is not a one-man show. All of us have a part to play. It is strengthened by participation. Jackson talked about that. It is strengthened by our voices. You have a voice. And our unwavering commitment to its principles. Together, we can build a Kenya. We can build an Africa. We can build a world that thrives on justice, transparency, and inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a great celebration. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We can give him a better applause on behalf of Strathmore University. I will not ask you a question. But be prepared. It could come even as you are seated in your space. Thank you so much, Shadrach, and the speakers who have taken the stage before. At this point, I would like to remind us that we are discussing AI, and AI in bad hands can also be very harmful, right? So I'm informed that by the virtue of our location, we are in the city, at the heart of the city, and we may not have so much control of who has used AI to ask what event is happening at KICC. And the AI has answered that Forum CIV is hosting an event. Therefore, we encourage you to be conscious about your personal staff, even as much as we have reinforced our security, but just be conscious of your personal stuff that you are carrying around, right? Si hapo tuko sawa? Great. So at this moment, I'd like us to change gears a little bit. We have had knowledge on AI. What is AI? What good can it do? What bad can it do? But as you know, Forum Civ, through our innovation, we have been championing activism. And I say that as I look at the audience to welcome one of our freshly minted activist fellows, Silways. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes on stage. Silways. Please, I know you are the first people to receive freshly minted content from Silways. Karibu sana, Silways. Sorry.
Mic check. 1 2 1 2 watu. Good morning. Good morning once more. Bana mmeboeka kwa nini? Good morning. Yes, my name is Brian Silways. I'm an urban spoken word artist all the way from Nakuru. I'm a proud Nax vegan. I'm a human rights advocate. Other people call me for Avangi. And of course, bragging rights, I'm a Forum Civ Activism Fellow class of 2024. I can see my classmates. Hiyo saa ndio natembea nayo mtaani. And I'm here. I'm very happy to be here. So before I begin, I want to teach you something. When I say story come, you say story go. When I say story go, you say story come. Story come. Now story go. Yes, guys, iPhone 16 is out. Sindio? Yeah, iPhone 16 is out, but you can go and make your order. But today, nataka to embrace technology. Because if we still want to be on the front line, not just like alpha male, but maybe as alphabet, alphabetical order. Like the first letter in the alphabetical order, A, when you combine it with U, what do you get, guys? AI. It's okay. If it didn't come out naturally, maybe it's now time you start embracing artificial intelligence. Come on, guys. Aren't you tired of seeing artificial leaders without intelligence? With AI, through prediction, eradication, AI ni kama imefanya gava ikae kama mzazi anangoja chapo kwa kibanda pale Mudhurwa. Hapo tu ndio atapata transparent. Aren't you tired of seeing our women with first class honor being left behind? Aren't you? You see, AI, just like the greatest footballer in the world, apart from having many roles to play, it has a lot to offer. Na si mara moja, maybe Maradona. You see, with AI, not using AI in good governance ni kama kuwa na pesa mingi kwa mpesa yenye hauna pin. Hapo huwezi toa pesa, maybe utoe tu maoni. Story go, na story come. So let's talk about government. You see, where I come from, we don't expect polisi wakose time ya kutuua kama vijana. Ni kama ujui huko ndani wako na masergeant. Let's talk about government. Nakuru, where I come from, wachezaji wa mpira wako so sad yetu wanafaa kuwe na furaha. Hii ni after kurealize viwanja zimefunguliwa online lakini kwa grao zimefungwa. Na sports kit ni fake kama degrees MP wako kwa parliament. You see, unajua from the root of things kuna MP yako na kimbere sana. So wewe ulidhani Gen Z ni watoto ati hata ucheze nao for your status hawawezi shika moto. Na mimi nauliza walimu wako hapa ndani, mbona walimu wamesoma ndo huinvite politician hajasoma ku advise watoto kuhusu masomo? Education is the only key ukiwa mtoto. Ukigrow up uta realize politician hajasoma ndo uko na the most expensive keys to their motto. Wazazi wao ukilipa university mtoto wako apate masomo, politician analipa the same Strathmore University kutokea kwa graduation photo. Let's talk about government. Dear Mr. President, sisi Nairobi tulikuambia maisha imekuwa costly, wewe ukatupeleka coastal. Na ndio endelee kupractice political prostitution, hujasikia hata mkubwa wa magoldiga wameamua kuwe Joho. Na acha nikuambie, justice delayed is justice denied. So apart from Sharon, huyo governor anatuoa bado. Story go. Story come. Dear Mr. President, let's talk about IMF. Just like your friends abroad, yani make sure Wakenya na madeni wamekuwa ma BFF. Lakini mimi niko tired of seeing politicians looking smart outside. But upstairs is where they draw their lines. Yani unaenda launch barabara using chopper. Kenya, tuko na very prayerful nation. Lakini wameamua kuwork hand in hand na maghost worker. Imagine huko apart from bathing huwezi pata waoga. So this is not a love letter, but I love letters. A, B, C, D. My problem comes ikifika ni F, G, M. Sheria ni kama msumeno na unakata pande zote. But kubali our girls wakatwe na wembe. Lakini tuna appreciate kwa forum kama hizi tuna sieve out bad governance, wapende wasipende. You see, whom I choose to love should be the reason behind my happiness. Not the reason behind buzz nikikula maharagwe. Tukidisagree neza fika point of correction. But ikipersist ifike point of erection, tafadhali brother usimbake. Ndo maana nita keep on fueling this conversation mpaka ifike aliko Dangote. Give up for all the black women in the building. You see, before you started seeing me on this platform, there was a gap. A very huge gap until Ngana decided to bridge it. You see, sometimes you meet your fun and now that become your fun times. That's when I told for Ramsiv, I have beautiful stories of black women, and you know what? Nature told me, always bring it. You see, where I come from, people are hungry for success, and now that food for thought. But do you know that Lana go hungry for some days because of how expensive that food cost? Now I understand why Wawira had to chip in. You can't deny the fact that it took a strong faith for Kipyegon to win that marathon in Berlin. Kenya tuko na wanaume. Tanzania's problem, imagine Samia and come up with Suluhu at that front lead. You see, she taught me cut across, but don't cut down trees. Why plant machines instead of planting seeds? Tell Wangari Maathai will surely miss her for this. When they ask you, tell them I'm talking about black women. Use your hands to clap, not to slap that woman. Looking down on an African woman to impress a white man, now that's a man who lacks both sense and humor. Na address wala wanaomekuita madem sura kiatu simply because you can't afford that ndula. I wish ningetoa a whole album about those single moms wenye wamechukua responsibility ya kuwa both mom na Buddha. You should tell our moms not to worry about employment because during birth they did more than enough during that labor. You see, she's a 10 over 10, but again, one of a kind. I bet she should be featured in that story of 10 lepers. I'm talking about black women. What a man can do, a woman can do, better believe me, that's not rumors. Is she a female version of DJ Khaled? Then go ahead and say her name. Is she a model? Then you know she has a role to play. After much said and done, don't wait for April. Celebrate her every day. Story go. Na story come. Afande with or without uniform sare kujudge my youth hata kama wamedress to kill. This looks are deceiving. People can't be dying because you want to earn a living. Our road si barabara. So kabla God kumeka way MP tuwai njia. Nimerepi word kuliko MCA wako juu maneno ya ubakaji sitaki kusikia. Wacha salamu. Uchumi ni mbaya mpaka unaweza toka shopping without getting a good buy. Northeastern si Camel pekee, huko hata watu wanaangamia. Paint our schools at least to pass na flying colors. Kenya na hiyo funding model free education sasa ndio imekuwa bure kabisa. In a monthly period hedhi inazuia wa girls kuelimika. Paint our schools at least to pass na flying colors. You see, na majenzi tulienda kwa street, si ndio? Tukaambia serikali hatuna kazi. Unajua venye serikali ilituuliza? Niulize ama niulize? Nasema niulize ama niulize? Wewe ushaisoma Bible ukakosa job wewe. Story go. Na story come. So to God be the glory. No lie, hakuna good so nowadays na worry. Kwa sababu kesi za injustices zimekuwa plenty na corruption imekuwa kama food. Ndio maana wale mfuko zao ziko full to full, sisi wenye zetu ziko empty. Ati wakiingia kwa gavota leta change but after election wanaingia undercover. Huku wanaacha watoi kwa street hawana hata kitu ya kuwa cover. As usual tunakuanga njana hatuwezi karanga. Kwa manifesto yao utadhani watakupeleka faba tu, kweli ndo kitu wananga. Ile kitu wanakuanga nayo ni tamaa ya mabenzi, ndio maana kwa mfuko umejaza mapeni. Ikikuja ni social media, Mr. Politician upata likes many, lakini huwezi toa comments kwa kazi zao kwa sababu ni blank. Hazina tofauti na zile suti zao za black kuja kututishia nazo time ya campaign. Ningaambiwa ni rank wase, trust me, na hizo degree zenyu kila mtu angepata grade ya E. Kwa sababu wa Kenya tunakuanga na extra experiences za poverty na tunakuanga tumereload hanga nyuma load ya transist, so nita insist. Unajua hapo kwa program niliambiwa I'm responsible for pure greatness. Daka zangu mbao zimeisha. Bado before niendelee, thank you so much for Ramsi for this chance. Without forgetting to mention, kuna mse fulani amazing mwenye amefanya nifike hii level pia, yani in terms of lyricism, in terms of kunijenga, in terms of kunionyesha njia pia. Una get mse fulani legendary anaitwa Willy Oeba. Kwa tunafanya na spoken word kwa matatu. Unajua kwa matatu unakuanga pale kwa matatu ukisimama manze. Just a short story, juzi kuna siku tumepiga spoken word, dereva akasimamisha gari akasema rasta kuendangi hivyo. Sasa mimi unajua ukisimama ni either ushuke ama upige spoken word, si ndio? Through civic education. Sasa venye dereva alisimama mimi nidhani mtu anapanda ama anashuka. Kumbe ni mimi wanani address. But audience walimwambia hapana, kunaendanga hivyo. Civic education all the way mpaka Kenya ibadilike, si ndio? Maximum injection. Manze, maximum injection. Manze. So nitasisitiza a way to say no to stress. Depression haina form. Inatukosesha usingizi kwa hizo mattress. Landlord wana plot na maagent vile watameka wa night sleepless. Extra pressure. Tukipata padlock extra kwa mlango. Ni ukweli elimu ni ufunguo wa maisha lakini si wa mlango. So hapo kwako education keys ni useless. Hata uwe na more spice way useless. Whether in the past ama present, relax, sustain. Don't stay wondering what to do. Stay hydrated. Because water is source of life, but life is not source of water. Wewe omba kazi na wasko pia ukate maji lakini usikate kakuota. Na kabla ulewe chakari, ulihepa aje option ya soda. Good things take time. Si hata ndege ilipopata bad nest mwisho ilirest kwa kiota. Na nawaona mnaka amazing sana. Lakini kuachwa na utaachwa. So wewe mrembo unalilia mbegu ya boyfriend akutaki nikao ujue unaweza pata jeans kwa toja. Na bro, kama umeunga kwa gym, hawa rembo hapa around KICC usitumie mapenzi ya kifua. Wanaweza kuacha juu msi ameunga kwa toja. Juu mapenzi si biashara, mapenzi ya bia ndo hasara. Unayempenda kwa dhati anapenda beshte yako for free. Unayempenda juu ya gari kama kinobare anapenda mwingine because of her feet. So shaiona how low people with high blood pressure look? They don't look sad. They look up to God and pray. Lakini huwa haombi kama wewe. Tafuta mali yako juu hata ukinherit gari bado huwezi ridhika. Story go. Na story come. Even if you don't take a look at me, I will still do it. Then the rest of you. Then rest in peace to all the fallen comrades. You see, they don't need this moment of silence. All they need is a moment of replacement. It rings in my mind, why did we have to kill this relationship before even our engagement? You see, bad governance. The problem is, we don't really know between education and communication which one is the real key. Another key issue is, we can't go on with this conversation because even the dent in our press is linked to your president. Now, before you respond to this, first of all, respond to those who were killed, because that's all I care about. I don't care about your entitlement. What is this culture that people with zero interest are the one going to represent us during those agreements? Bad governance has affected us more than what you hear. Ni kama tu climate change. Because hata saa hujui whether you need fulana ama fulani. So dear mom, wakikuuliza why I'm shining, tell them you gave birth to a son. Tell them sky is the limit na mimi ni nyota, as long as niko na hawa madada nita see stars. As long as niko na hawa mafans nitatumia maneno kuwin award. Haijalishi ni mwezi gani. Nita appreciate anything I may get, be it less ama much. So my queen is single mother. Na nimerezi issue just to let you know alimanage kunilea peke yake. Na hii sanaa mbali nitaenda, lakini saa hii siko ready to get further. Wacha nikuchanue. Kinyozi hata mimi nilienda just to feel like niko na baba. You see, wengine wenye sijai waelewa ni my siblings wakisikia natafuta my significant other. You see, they want a light skin chick na ngozi ya kokobata. Msanii amefall in love na kuku kienyeji mrembo English kizungumkuti, apart from love language anaelewa tu lugha ya mama. Acha nikuambie, nakumbuka zile siku zenye pilau tulinusia tu kwa chupa ya masala. Najua unashangaa mbona nimejaa gas, ni venye maybe hatukuwahi afford cylinder. Juu politician tulichagua sahi si leader, yeye ni foreman, an enemy of the people who gave us character development carry word ya our votes. Na nauliza, mbona pesa zetu za miradi ndio ulienda kufungua nazo bezi ya miradi? Uongozi ndio kitu tunataka. Uongo hiyo tulishakataa. Wacha nikuambie, uko lucky kama uko na jirani mwema hapo pale umekaa. Wetu si mwema. Imagine juu kuna siku tulikula stories hapa na tukalala usingizi wa pono, sasa anasema si ni washerati. Na wanadamu tukue kama magari, si ndio? Wanadamu tukue kama magari, si ndio? For example, angalia tu V8 gari kubwa, iko na jina ndogo. Wewe Probox gari ndogo, mbona unataka jina kubwa? With this simple sentence, I have a dream to put poverty to a life sentence. Brian Silways.
Wait. Hold up. I think we can do a better. The amount of wisdom. Najua hata kuna watu wametoka na malines hapa, si ndio? Mistari. But thank you for that injection.
Ati nikiwa form 2 ndo nilianza kuchora lines kwa kichwa. Shule walitaka bata kiatu, lakini mama alikuwa na bata mzinga. Sijui kama dada alipenda mzinga. Juu kila day nasikia alikuwa anaenda kutoa lock. Dear dad, tunakumiss sana. Na ile deni yetu ya visit ni lini utapay? Shule nilifanya, shule bado nadaiwa karo juu. The only thing I was able to pay ilikuwa attention. Dear mom, usiworry. My mom alikuwa maid, so wengine walimuita mboch, but I believe on my wedding day she will become the best maid. You see, ile kizungu nilijua ilikuwa tu subject, but now they want to subject me because it's the language I'm speaking.
Hey! I think he deserves a standing ovation as he sits down. Igwe, thank you so much. Silwes, thank you so much. And I think there's so much great potential in how we can use our art to speak. Si umesikia venye iko? Hiyo injection iko aje? Inject another dose, direct injection. Daktari anasema hapa hiyo ni direct injection. So thank you so much, Silwes, and keep up the good work. And umesema good things take time, si ndio? Good things take. So even as we celebrate democracy, democracy is not a destination, is it? It's not a destination, it's a path to a better tomorrow, and we must keep these conversations alive. So amenikumbusha pia akasema ukiachwa sasa Silwes utakubali tukuache kwanza. Tukipata nafasi, I think you will come back to give us the second dose. Nisi worry. So we hope we can have time. I think we are doing good on time. Sorry. So at this moment, I think I'd like us to change gears now and we'll now move to a discussion, a panel discussion on We'll now move to a panel discussion, and the panel discussion will delve more into the theme of today, but also touch into what will later on point to us, the leadership, the NextGen Leadership Fellowship. And to guide us in this conversation, I'd like to call on stage Bina Maseno. Bina Maseno, who will be moderating this session for us. Bina Maseno is the Executive Director of Badili Africa and was the first runners-up of Miss President Kenya 2022. A round of applause. It was a leadership competition just for Nairobi County as she comes on stage. She's an experienced gender, governance and development advocate. She's also skilled in gender inclusivity, women's economic empowerment and participation in political and socio-economic processes, program development and curbing all forms of gender-based violence. Over and above that, she had the courage to step up and take her leadership moment and vie for a political position. Let's give her another round of applause. Thank you so much, Bina.
Stila, thank you so much. And also thank you for the introduction. I tried to run for office, but kura zangu hazikutosha. That's how I find myself here today, you know? So I like to console myself and say that I did not lose. Ni kura hazikutosha, si ndio? You know, you must find a way of not falling into depression when you lose political office, right? So thank you very much. And I'd love to just jump into introducing my power panel. You know, when I got their resumes and their bios, founder and executive director of Unlock Young Leaders. Unlock Young Leaders Summit, an NGO advancing SDG 4. Nani anajua SDG 4 ni gani? SDG 4? Guys, msiniangushe. SDG 4. Sorry? Someone has said no. What's SDG 4? Hey. Okay, should we start with the SDG 17, guys? Okay, because now how will you understand how important his work is? Huh? So SDG 4, SDG 8. How many of us know SDG 8? Okay, someone's going to do like a rundown of all the SDGs. At least we must leave here understanding SDG 1 to 17, right? Please someone pull that up. We just need to run through all the SDGs and SDG 16. He has built a community of over 2,000 leaders across 25 counties and 15 countries, earning recognition such as the 2023 Mentorship Award and first runners-up in the Utumishi Bora Award. Please help me welcome Okanda Stephen. So my task today is exciting and is to reflect where we are at really as a country and what a year when it comes to discussing democracy. What a moment we live in. I personally have never seen us test the limits of our constitution like we did this year. And so I would want us to start with a bit of reflections of where we are at, what this moment means to you, what the recent protest meant to you, because then we're going to build up from there. We're going to see what are the opportunities and what are the gaps. And to do that, we're not only going to engage the panelists, we're also going to engage at every table, right? If possible, if time allows us. But I'd like to also just get a bit of reflections from you, what stood out for you? What does this moment mean to you? And what does this day mean to you? So if someone can help me run the mic to at least get about 3 people before we jump onto the panel randomly, just 3 per table. So I think the MC will help us pick one person at random, because all of us are leaders, right? Yeah, we're here in this room because we're also leaders. So just randomly, what did the Gen Z moment mean to you? And what does this day mean to you? What are your reflections? Please don't go to your phone right now. Don't look down. MC, please help me pick the ones who are going to their phone right now, Using AI, right? Yeah. Unaweza ongea hata na lugha ya Kiswahili. What are your thoughts? Unaonaje? Tunaelekea wapi as a country? Where are we headed? Are you hopeful? I'm seeing a hand there. Is that a hand? Fantastic. So we have someone with a microphone. Then we have a hand. Okay, we have a hand just right here. The table just right next to you.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Jeremiah. I'm a Gen Z. So what the Gen Z movement that we witnessed in the previous 2 months, I personally did participate in the demonstrations. Want to say where we are heading as a country, I would say we are really going astray. Yeah, matters the leaders that we have, but also at the same time, we are heading the right direction because our generation, which we are the leaders of today and the partners of tomorrow, we are woke. We are aware of what needs to be done. In matters democracy and the demonstrations, I'll say, for me as an individual, it really came as a straining period because I read the Constitution and it tells me it's my right to hold peaceful demonstrations. But here I am on the streets and people who are supposed to protect us while demonstrating, that is the police, are here tear gassing us, beating us, and even killing us. So it was quite a moment that really made me become, confused. Where are we heading to? Is that people are supposed to protect the Constitution, but they are going against it. So today, I would like to also get informed from our panel about which direction should we take matters democracy.
Fantastic. I just want to hear a few reflections so that also we can just come to the panel to share the reflections as we go to the questions of the day. My very good friend as well, Lillian, does fantastic work as well in Madare.
So thank you so much, Bina. So nice to see you're looking all mwah. So hi everyone. So my name is Lilian Awor. I'm from a Pussy Power movement. My reflection on the recent protest for Reject Finance Bill 2024. It awakened my fallen energy because as an activist since 2013, we had lost hope. I'm a millennial, yes, but through the Gen Z, it brought the fire back in me. It brought all the things that we had envisioned in terms of democracy, because our civic spaces was started to be shrinked because of the government and the betrayal from the people that are saying we are comrades, but at the real time, they are not comrades. So moving forward, we cannot be leaderless as much as we are out on the street risking our lives. So today, I just want my good friends who are over there. Yes, we use digital spaces, but it was not safe for us. So many people, many comrades, after being out there on social media, they were trailed, they disappeared. Until today, our comrades are not there. We don't know where our comrades are. As much as we are moving forward to taking over the digital spaces that we are seeing, it's very good, but we need to set the digital space to be safe for all the comrades, because we are using the iPhone 16, we are all over social media, we took everything, but the government took over that digital space. You know that? Yeah, but as much as we are going forward there, we have very good friends of us. We have been movement for long. Make us learn today, how can we make our digital spaces safe? Because that is the place that the government walituchapa kwa kichwa. So we are here, we are leaderless. We don't know the direction that we are going to take. We have the energy, we have the vision, we have the finance, but we don't know the direction that we need to take. So I'm saying through the Forum Civ, our democracy is at trial. So we need to awaken the fire. We need to move forward. So my own comrades, we are here today. Let us convene. Let us go back to the streets, because the president is out there. Hajanyamaza, anangojea kwa sababu alitumia betrayers in our spaces. And betrayers are who? They're us. They're not people outside our movement. So we need to know on how we can figure out what is our next move. We need to have a leader. We need to have our digital spaces safe for everyone.
Okay, I'll just have 3 quick reflections and then we jump to the panel, because I would want us to address our concerns apart from some of the questions that we've prepared. I'd like us to speak to our concerns. I'd also love to hear from Githurai Social Justice Center. Please pass the mic. She's just smiling at me, and please pass the mic briefly. What are your thoughts? There was so much that came.
In the spirit of justice, she was very insistent, so I'll give
okay,
her.
fun. Okay,
They'll
fine.
share the minutes.
Okay. Just a minute each.
Thank you so much. My name is Frida Mongare. And I can't help it when he's speaking and she's speaking and you feel gassed. When they're speaking, you feel the goosebumps in you. So just to recount how whole maandamano, the Gen Z process was. It's recently, nimepanda matatu, nimekaa na dereva, and ni kama kuna kiongozi, these MPs were passing. So unaona gari kelele, the way we excuse them, we always do. And the driver was like, ile wakati wa Gen Z walikuwa wanaongoza, hii haingefanyika. And I felt excited that, oh, indeed Gen Z's ruled for some time. It was a moment of leadership, a moment of, it was a reign, the Gen Z's reign for some time. So mimi na feel that we are taking a good step as young people, and we are learning from our mistakes. We were really gassed on the streets. We use social media in a very good way. And in that very manner, as we've kept insisting, mentioning AI, it's the same way we should train AI. The same way we're using Twitter powerfully, it's the same way AI to try manipulate to serve us as the young people. We have the energy, we have the intellectual capacity, even as you find that the president wanajaribu sana to ensure that we have an illiterate generation huku mbele, because this funding model has been brought to destroy watu ambao wanataka kusoma. So please, your energy siishe, and even as we are here, we'd want to learn what mistake or what didn't we do right that we should do right, so that these very, very politicians that are riding on our energy, on the changes we wanted to make. So labda kabisa tupate kufunzwa kutoka kwa nyinyi ambao mko mbele. Asante sana.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So we'll have that one and one last one. And I think why I even picked on you is because there was a lot happening. And even when Githurai was trending, I remember someone calling me and asking, is it true? Is it not true? The lines for misinformation are becoming very, very blurry. What was your experience of this moment? What do you make of it?
Viva, comrades, viva!
Viva!
Viva, comrades, viva!
Viva!
More power to the people, more power!
More power!
I do not feel that power. I do not talk when I am not in the room where I feel
I also
there's
haven't
power.
felt that power.
Yes.
Kwanza hiro. I think comrades are wako kwa hiro.
So more power to the people, more power!
More power!
More power to the people, more power! Down with oppression, down! Down with extrajudicial killings, down! Forward with social justice, forward! Forward with democracy, forward!
Forward!
So my name is Njoki Gashanja. I coordinate Githurai Social Justice Center. Today I had chosen to just be silent and listen, but yeah, I was picked out. So in my reflections, first of all, to just, I've kept saying this over and over again in any forum that I get. It's really about, the Githurai massacre and how it trended and what purpose that, that played in the space. Because when we came out and we said, yes, there was like a lot of police violence, yes, a lot of people were shot, but it was not a massacre. It was not 250 people. It was not 450 people, or what the numbers were. And it's important for the work that we do to always be to remain credible, to always say the truth, because I kept saying that we cannot operate in the same parameters or play the same cards that the government or the state uses on propaganda and lies. And very many people, especially comrades in the space, came out and were like, yo, you become the government spokesman. Why is it that you're coming out to say? I was like, for you people, that is. But for me and for the people of Githurai, those are our people. That's my community. It would mean it's my neighbor. It would mean it's my relative. So we came out very strong and we said, first of all, we understand our context very well, and we know that it's political trickery. It's people who are trying to advance the narrative to build on the tribal narratives, And that is what we had refused. That is why we were on the streets as Gen Z, as the millennials. And as I reflect, because we want to speak of this moment as this thing that just happened, but we have been doing the Lord's work in the communities for a very long time. We have been organizing the community, and this was a culmination of that, And it was such a great moment. I remember every single time I went to the streets, and it was like mammoth, And I did not even know anyone. You're on the streets for 1-2 hours. You've not seen. We've been on the street for so many years, and it's always very familiar faces. I know I'll see Jackson. I know I'll see Bina. I know I'll see. But now it was very organic, it was beautiful, and there was so much power. I want to pick on what Lillian said about being leaderless. I think with the social justice movement, we have tried to change the narrative from civic education to political education, because we have been saying we've been organizing the communities for a very long time, but our organizing will not make sense if we are not organizing to take over political power. So yes, it is for a time and a place, it will make sense for us to be leaderless so that we're not targeted, but it is not sustainable to keep saying that we are leaderless. We must emerge, but that leadership must emerge organically. Asante sana.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So one backbencher nimewaona. One, just represent every backbencher. Just represent all of them. As I come to the panel, just to reflect on the same.
Good morning. I am Kavana David, a graduate from Technical University of Kenya, here today with Badili Africa. As much as we are driving the conversation in the Gen Z, I think kunafaa kukuwa na pia a conversation on Gunzi, because as much as we were kwa hii maandamano tulikuwa Gen Z and stuff, utarealize hiyo maandamano ilikuja kuteka break simply because kuna group of cartels ilikuja huku nje gunzi, wakakuja kuinterfere na the good journey of democracy that we were trying to have to liberate our country. So pia as the conversation takes on, I think we should focus more on gunzi. Na how gunzi ni sisi tu bado wenye tuko Gen Z. I don't know ni venye tuko idle, unemployed, depressed kwa nyumba and stuff. And so anytime wababa wanatusumbua sana huku nje na madem zetu, ikifika tena kwa political spaces, those wababa wenye they are getting money, I don't know, illicit fund flow and stuff, and they are using the same money kukuja tena kutubribe huko, kutupatia pesa, kusabotage the good in the democracy we are trying to do. So I think tukideal na hiyo story ya gunzi, maybe tunaweza kuwa na future somewhere. Thank you.
Represent backbenchers. You guys, that's why you need to come to Forum Civ meetings. Did you know about Gunzi? I didn't know. I also didn't know the frustrations. Wababa, what's happening? Gen Z are looking at you. Wababa's in the room. What's happening, right? That's a concern. But thank you very much. I just need us to have a feel of what we are thinking, even as we go to the panel, to also reflect on what is happening and also share part of the solutions that we are going to co-create here, or co-design here, or co-listen to in terms of what is happening within our context. So thank you very much. You've heard what the audience is thinking, is feeling, where they are at. And I'd like us to also share our reflections about where we find ourselves. Also, given our experiences, given our expertise, I'd like us to also share our reflections as we go to specific questions on your area of expertise and what we make of this moment and how we also strengthen our democracy. So we'll start with Wevin, then we go to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bina. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate the insights that have just also given me something to think about. I think I'll start by my first reflection, or my biggest reflection, is preparation meets opportunity. And so I think even thinking about the NextGen Leadership Fellowship, it speaks to the need to prepare young people for the opportunity to then lead action. Yes, people say that, the movement didn't come from nowhere. Social justice centers, CBOs, youth groups, civil society leaders have been preparing young people to actually lead action. So that was my biggest reflection. And, the opportunities that technology and the AI more broadly presents to be able to engage citizens and engage young people. So tech as an enabler. Tech is a tool. In itself, it doesn't really promote democracy. It helps us get there. And so it calls for us to ask, for example, how do we build digital technologies that are inclusive so that we are not repeating the same mistakes in the real world when we are doing our democracy efforts? Also, how does tech enable us to shift power to the people? A good example is, when there was the organizing in the beginning on X Spaces, and then the Gen Zs, let me use Gen Zs in this context, told the president, you come where we are at. You come talk to us on X. The old days of committees and, a group of political elites being selected to go negotiate on behalf of the country are long gone. So I think that also speaks to how do we build technologies that are inclusive, that are designed by the communities, that are dictated. And, that also speaks to the need for us as Kenyans and as Africans to own our data so that we can use this data to catalyze change. Another reflection was for how, as civil society leaders, this moment called for us to participate with humility. We can't just go and say, yeah, we've been doing this protest. Let us show you how we do this protest. Let us show you how we organize people. No, because the leaderlessness comes from that, where people do not want to be represented by a specific group of leaders. So where is our humility as civil society leaders, and how does it then show up in the movement? The issue of being mobilized versus organized. So we are mobilized right now. A lot of Kenyans care about what's happening in the country. I think it's a huge shift to public opinions about governance pre-elections, where young people had this, some were going to vote, but most young people did not vote, did not register to vote. And now, I mean, everyone is just thinking, how do we participate? How do we engage? And so a challenge for us as civil society leaders is, how do we create these opportunities? So how do we sustain citizen engagement, especially thinking about those who are first-time frontliners? As she mentioned, you are going to the streets and seeing new faces, people who've never been to the protest. So how do we equip these people with the knowledge, the tools, the resources, the networks to sustain their engagement, so that we don't have flare-ups, we have coordinated action that actually transform the ways in which the country is run right now. Thank you.
Fantastic. Dr. Ari, what are your thoughts? What are your reflections?
Good. Thanks, Bina. For me,
You can put it closer.
oh, okay. For me, I think the biggest takeaway from the protests was we saw for the first time in a very long time a completely scared political class. I think they have been so used to how we engage. They have been so used to how protests are organized, usually by the opposition. But for now, they saw something that they were not familiar with, that they were not prepared for. And I think that gave me an indication that when we say in the opening chapter of our constitution that power belongs to the people, this was a proper demonstration of that fact, right? For that period, as Lillian, I think, was saying, that Gen Z were ruling for a period of time. And by the way, for the record, I am a millennial. I'm not one of the Wababas, so I'm not in that category. Yeah. Then I think the other key thing for me as a scholar who looks at questions of violence, police brutality, and so on, one of the important things we saw this time, with a lot more credibility than previous occasions, was the fact that most of the violence during political protest is actually orchestrated by the state, right? So we see a lot of discourses where the state agencies and its operatives are trying to pass the blame to the protesters, and branding them as goons, as criminals, and so on. But actually, we saw when the police were not there, by and large, the protests were very peaceful. But when the police showed up, then there was a lot more violence. So in fact, this is what we essentially call a police riot. It's the police that are rioting rather than the protesters. So I think if we have ever been looking for an example of this kind of the capacity of the state to inflict violence on its citizens, unwarranted for that matter, we saw it this time. I think for me, the final point I will make here about the Gen Z movement and the protest is it gave me a lot of hope about where we are going as a country. I know for now there's a bit of fear, a bit of concern, a bit of hopelessness amongst some of the people. But by and large, and in balance, Brian, between the Gen Z and the Gunzi, as you have now taught us, by and large, I am confident that there's a lot more of the younger generation who are interested and keen on better governance and better politics for the country. So the moment for us to celebrate or to win may not have come yet, but I think that moment is coming. So that gives me a lot of hope for the future of our country.
Fantastic, fantastic. Stephen, You work across counties with young people. What are your reflections, even as you listen to we've been speaking to, how do we prepare even young people for this moment? What are your reflections?
Able to let me use this. Okay, 1, 2. Thank you. This is not working. We reject it. Right. Maybe I'll start from what my fellow panelists have actually said. This was a moment for us, especially as young people. For the longest time, Raila was going ahead of us, and we follow him. We follow him to wherever he's telling us to go to Kamkunji, and followed with Kalonzo and a few other comrades and the rest of us. But this time, it was so different that the young people could organize themselves. I was joining the Twitter spaces, and I know Elon Musk made a lot of money. I mean, thousands upon thousands of people just are on X, and they are speaking and they're engaging, and that was quite something for me. Another thing that was also a plaque of the nerve was that for the longest time, we have been the receivers of decision making, or the decision that I've already made, receivers of policies. But this time round, we are challenging those very decisions. We are challenging those policy frameworks. And we are asking ourselves, can we get better? How is it that some countries are borrowing our policy frameworks and they're doing so well, and a country who are the host of the very policies, they're not functional in this country? And those are the questions that the young people were actually asking during this protest. And one of the things that also interested me is that, and this is maybe for the sustainability of this conversation, we young people, we are not participants. In fact, if you look at the UN documents right now, if you've read the Pact of the Future, one of the things we were challenging when we were reading the first revision and the second revision is replacing the word participation with meaningful engagement. Because we do not attend events like this to sign a page out there to say that the young people were in that event. We want to ask ourselves, can we be the contributors? Can we be the partners? And can we be the executors of the very policies and issues we are discussing? So in terms of going forward, myself as a young person, I from the intro you heard that I run a very young organization. It's a non-governmental organization. I started this organization 4 years ago when I was finishing my undergraduate studies, because I was tired. I was tired with the fact that, and listen to me carefully, most of these people who are in government, they were young people like us. They had ambitions like we do. They were saying when we get there, we will change, we will transform. But look at how the coin has turned in a flip of a moment. Therefore, the hardest questions we need to ask ourselves as young people, even in our daily lives, are we being value-based? Are we living with integrity? How do you manage the small amount of money that possibly you get in doing one or two things? And I know possibly that is not a conversation many people want to engage in. And for sure, if we are not intentional in our own spaces as young people, that is something that we need to ask ourselves. If I'm given that responsibility, how am I going to work myself out? And with that burden, that is when I started my organization, training young people on simple topics like leadership with integrity. What does it mean to be a leader of integrity? To be a leader who is accountable. I mean, if you cannot be accountable with the few things that you are handling as a leader, then it becomes so difficult when you get a political position. The other thing is that we have always known that it's people who have money that vie for political seats. And one of the main challenges that I had during the protest, and I participated in this protest, I remember I asked someone, if we give you a political seat and we take you to that political seat, are you able to execute? And the biggest question that we need to ask ourselves, do we have the arsenal of leadership within our toolkit? That if you're appointed, we now have a 32-year-old CS who have been appointed. We want to ask and see, how is he going to execute? But the biggest question that we need to challenge, and I love what my colleague said right there, this thing about leaderless, we need to rethink. Because if you're going to be leaderless, you're going to be directionless. And until we come to the moment and ask ourselves, who should we trust? Because in Kenya, we are struggling with trust issues. We don't trust our political leaders, but unfortunately, we don't even trust ourselves. For real, we don't even trust ourselves. So we as the caucus of the young people, we need to ask ourselves difficult question. If we are going to form a political party, yesterday I was speaking in a youth conference, and one of the young person was talking about forming a political party. If you're going to form a political party, who are going to be the custodians? Who are going to fund that political party? And it's upon us now to come and ask ourselves, who are going to support this kind of a conversation? And then building a robust movement. And we need to put and fix our eyes on 2027. Because sincerely, most of the people possibly, and I'm saying this as a person who know the stats, most of us didn't vote in 2022. And we are eating the fruits of our irresponsibility. But I'm grateful that we have reawakened civic consciousness that is now at play. And I pray it will be sustained. Thank you.
Stephen, I want to stay with you even now as we come to reflecting on some of these questions given our background. Oh, please, guys that began clapping. It's okay. Let me not take that away from you. You already said you're a Gen Z, so let me not take the clap away from you. So you're talking about us eating the fruits of our irresponsibility because we did not vote, right? So there's one, from where you sit, why do you think we didn't vote in big numbers? And if we're saying that we need to focus on 2027, what does that look like for you and the space you occupy, the platforms you occupy, and the young people you work with? And also, you've also alluded to the question of resources, of money in election. And elections are becoming even more expensive. I think before 2022, there was a study that was done by Mzalendo, and you need about 5 million minimum to run for MP. I mean, to run for MCA in this country, you need about 20 million to run for MP, right? So even as we say our eyes need to be on 2027, practically, how do we ensure that we engage effectively? Because as it stands in this country, in the last election, we were only able to have 317 young people elected into office. 317 only, with young women being 20 of them, right? So what does that look like as you look at 2027? Thanks.
It's sad. It's really a sad reality because we don't even trust the very election procedures and processes in this country. So the question will be, the IBC selection committee was actually put in place the other day. I don't know if I'm wrong, but I didn't see any youth representation in that panel. So the question is, even if we are going to strategize, is it going to be sustainable? And those are the things we need to call out and hold accountable the very people who are holding that kind of a mechanism, the IBC. Because if that party is not secured, we are not even sure about our own election. But the other thing about why we didn't vote in 2022 was because of political apathy. I mean, many things in this country discourage you. The votes are being stolen when we are just seeing, and that was so demoralizing for many people even to go and vote. But also the problem of political apathy amongst us as young people, we tend to think that other people will make decisions for us, not forgetting that we are the ones who are supposed to make the decision and even shape how conversations need to go. But now when we jump ship and we look at 2027, one of the critical things that we need to do, and I love what my sister talked about, we need to come from civic education to political education, really helping people understand how do you vote and how do you secure your vote, because that is another thing. Because we are not just voting, we are going to secure our own votes. I mean, I was joking with the other person the other day and I was saying, possibly when you vote, you have to tell us, I don't know, maybe that's something for a discussion for another day. But everybody securing their own vote and coming in large numbers and saying, this is our country and this is the decision we're going to make. But also secondly, between now and 2027, we need to look and have serious conversation and ask ourselves, who have the dexterity of leadership as far as governance is concerned? Because the truth of the matter about issues of leadership, you don't just pick anyone and put them in a political position. And it's not a thing about getting one to represent the rest. It's about us having this civic consciousness that comes from the grassroots now to the political seats, and it's supposed to be sustained. So the question is, are we going to make sure that this civic consciousness that is awoke right now is sustained? But secondly, are we going to help young people understand that your vote is your weapon? And if you don't vote, if you don't wake up in the morning and go and vote, it's also going to be a problem. But the last thing that I will also say, and this is a conversation that the CSOs and the YCOs and everybody needs to get involved into, is how are we going to secure our voting block amongst young people? That is a big question. And I don't know who is going to answer us on that regard.
Sisi tu hapa. Solutions, yeah. All of us have our own solutions, yeah. And we're going to reflect together. That's why we're having these conversations, right? I want to come back to you, Dr. Karuri. And as you listen to the conversation, is the civic space expanding or is it shrinking? Because also what we've seen in this moment is we talk about freedom of expression, but then there's no freedom of expression. And I think also there's been conversation that what was more prevalent is freedom of suppression, you know? So is it shrinking? Is it expanding? And also I think Lillian did allude to the unlawful abductions, that there are even some comrades up until today. We do not even know where they are. I think one of my lowest moments was the bodies that turned up in a morgue, you know, because you're being told your child was hit by a car, then you go and find your child with bullet wounds, right? I think this was one of the most gruesome protests that I also attended, where, you know, like you did not even know if you could come back home. Because I think even Njoki would attest, previous protests, you did not know that you could go and then 5 people, you know, won't actually come back home. They'll turn up in a morgue, you know. So it was one of the most gruesome protests, right? So, given your expertise and given where we find ourselves, where there's also weaponization of key state institutions, there's intimidation of organizations, there's intimidation of individuals. How do we build, given that foundation? Like how do we build better from there?
Thanks, Bina. It's a very tough question to respond to, but I'll try. And Nikishindwa Jackson pia chukue microphone. I think the thing we have to remember is to also look back into our history. Because sometimes when you have very momentous events like the Gen Z protests, it's very easy to forget that we have done very many of these kind of things before, perhaps not to the same magnitude and perhaps not with the same intensity. But in history, our civic space always kind of oscillates. It's expanding for a period. Then the political class feels quite threatened and they start clawing back, right? So what we are seeing now is not unusual. As you see, the intensity of the violence in this particular round of protests has been quite extreme, but we must also not forget the violence that has followed elections in the past, especially in elections where we have an incumbent that is seeking re-election, because they tend to be a lot more violently policed as well, right? So in other words, when you say expression, that expression includes voting. Sometimes you vote and then you end up with the police officers in your house. Yeah. So like you can remember the case of baby Pendo, for instance, a 6-month-old baby who was killed by the police. So this is something that is very common to the way that the state engages with us as citizens, especially when they feel that they are sufficiently threatened. So when you target the political class, and as you can see what's happening now, and going into the other dimension of the civic space, is the people we thought who were champions of democracy. When the system is threatened, you realize actually they are not different from the ones that they have been fighting against, right? So they have regrouped in order to protect their space, because allowing the movement of citizens to continue is actually going to put all of them out of business, right? So the point there is to realize this: what we are fighting or what we are dealing with is not just removing one group of actors from office, but it's actually upending the entire system and how, you know, colonial it is, because the police are actually now trained and geared towards protecting the regime. And I think what abductions have taught me from this protest, because when we listen to the stories of those who have been released, and it's very sad that we've lost so many people, you hear that people are being tortured, in order to give information about how did you know about the contacts of the IMF, or how did you know this information. But even now, even without talking about AI, just Googling, you will find that information. So it also tells me that we are dealing with a state architecture that is completely not aware of the times. They still think that intelligence is about going and finding hidden information, rather than actually analyzing the information that is very readily available, right? I think this potentially makes them very brutal, because they have the sense that people understand more about the issues of governance and the state than they actually do, which means the challenge of police reform, and I know some people here will start talking about abolition, has never been more significant than it is today, right? So even as we are building the movement, how do we imagine, security outside the state, especially during this protest movement, so that we protect the people we have and we protect the spaces that we have, even as we look forward into how to deal with the state. Because the state, when the state is cornered, it behaves like a wounded animal, right? They will become very brutal and very violent. And I understand the concern that people are scared, because you don't know whether you're going to come back home, you don't know where your neighbor went. So we can't always be asking people to move back to the streets. But being out of the street does not mean that the movement has died. And I like what Wendy has said here, that there has been a movement. So it's about building on that movement in smarter ways that protect people, so that by the time we are going to the 2027 election, we are now translating this momentum into what transpires at the ballot.
Fantastic. I like what you're saying, that being out of the street does not mean the movement has died, that we can continue building because we have been building. Wevin, I want to come to you and stay with you in your conversation, and also something you alluded to that I was to also have a conversation with you on. And that is, how does technology enable us to shift power to the people? Like, how do we leverage technology to shift power to the people? That is one. But then also, in light of what we have seen, even on social media, in terms of the narratives, and also the political class leveraging on the social media platforms to shape narratives in ways that benefit them and in ways that protect their interest. Because immediately the protest began, the whole thing was labeled as a Gen Z movement for a very long time. And that did something to the other generation. So even when you want to come to the street, I remember my uncles telling me, "Ini siku yenu," and I'm to represent, and that is someone who's actually at home, but they're telling you just to go and represent us because it's a Gen Z thing. And even how that was weaponized. Yet the issues that Gen Z was speaking about are issues that affect all of us. That is one. But then two, when you talk about protection, on the digital platforms. I think a month ago we saw what Elon Musk said in terms of deplatforming, and he's against us deplatforming people. So today, if you see very weird content or even revenge porn, and you want to deplatform someone, he's saying that it's freedom of expression, and there's even a letter that was circulated with Elon Musk really, really against deplatforming. So what does that mean? Because when you talk about safety and someone is coming at me, and I can't even maybe report effectively, and I cannot push for them to be deplatformed because of who they are, then what does that mean about us being safe on the online space? And then how do we just leverage that space to also ensure that online actions also translate to offline actions, or sustain or fuel offline actions? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. As I said before, tech is a tool. It's our train to get to where we need to get. And we need to remember that tech will amplify what's already in the communities. So we already have gender unequal societies. We already have poverty. We already have challenges with access. And I remember during the first few protests, I like what you said about weaponizing, because one of the weapons was the generation, like, oh, it's just young people who are unemployed with their phones trying to look cool on TikTok. And problem with looking cool, you know? We have to make civic engagement, political engagement align with social norms and with what do young people care about right now? And I think, sorry, this doesn't. Check. Can you hear me? We're using old means of getting people to participate in democracy and they don't work. So then it begs the question, what are the legalities and the frameworks that govern the internet so that we are not marginalizing the same societies that we already do online or offline? So for example, if we are saying that we're mobilizing for mass action on X only, is the entire country on X? No. So how do we work with community leaders, civil society leaders, so that I mean, in many contexts, you'll find that community leaders will have access to the internet, and then they can have a hybrid method of organizing. So we have to complement community efforts with digital efforts so that we can move forward. On the issue of protection, I think it's when we have a digital space that has been designed by all, it's different as opposed to saying, okay, so this is the movement and everyone is welcomed, women, people with disability. That's very different. When you say you're welcome, it's different from we created this with you in mind. And I think that's the challenge that we have with the digital spaces that we are organizing in. We are mobilizing, we are educating, we are fact checking, we are holding leaders accountable. So yeah, who's designing these platforms and do they work for everyone? We are in the business of trust. Democracy is all about trust. A few weeks ago, I was in a panel, and just to quote my fellow panelists, is peace travels at the speed of trust. And so if peace travels at the speed of trust, especially in Kenya right now, we need to ask, what is the cost of rebuilding this trust? It's not just trust between the state and the people, it's also the people versus the people. We saw how, even for us within the movement, we were bullying each other, we were being misogynistic, we were being homophobic, we were being violent to other people within the movement. And so how do we rebuild trust? Because right now it got to the point, even as activists, you don't know who has been, who is colluding with the state to give information. So how do we move forward if we don't trust each other within the movement? And what is the cost of rebuilding this trust? And just to say, we have to diversify engagement strategies. We all can't protest. We all can't come to forums. We all cannot vote. And I am a firm believer that voting is not the main way of civic and political engagement. It is one of the ways, but it cannot be the only way, because we vote, even if we vote in good leaders, and like Doctor said here, when they are tested, they will not be for the people. So how do we build the collective power of citizens to be able to question, to hold accountable, to ask the right questions, to get, to ask what is happening? We can't just depend on a few people who have the knowledge, who have the information, and who have the resources to build this. The people power is what is going to take us forward, looking at when individuals have the capacity, then even the leaders know that they're being held to a higher standard. But we have a system where people still, they're bullied for a couple of days on X, and then they go about their lives and we forget. But when people know that enough is enough, which I think is what the movement was about, like enough is enough, we've been quiet for too long, and now it's time to take action. So I leave with one more reflection is, I know we're talking about the goonsies, we're talking about the goons, but we have to remember that these are Kenyans. These are young people. So the same reason why we are protesting is the same reason why they're taking 1,000 shillings to go and cause that violence. So I'll be a devil's advocate here for a minute and just pose that question to us. how do we engage Gunzis? Because it's all about meaningful engagement. And when they pick a weapon, when they pick a machete or a stone, they believe that they're actually taking back their power. So let us transform this power into something that actually is for good.
When you said you want to be a devil's advocate, I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm also allowed to be a devil's advocate on top of a devil's advocate. Is there something like that? But just lastly, on the last point, even as you throw it back to the audience in terms of how do we engage Gunzi and then picking up machetes as a way of taking back their power, I think my reflection and also what I saw during the protest is also we are not calling out the sponsors of the Gunzis enough. And I think that is also where the problem is. Because I think also Brian did allude to unemployment rates in the country. So then how do we situate that situation? Because one of the Thursdays when we saw a lot of looting in town and all that, I remember, I think we were, me, Nerima, Jerry, we just arrived in town, and I've even seen Khalid come in, and we met Khalid outside CJ. And we're being told by a group of Buddha people that if you go down there, you're going to be robbed. And I remember actually we're asking Khalid, are you going down there? He's like, lazima tuende tuone, nini inafanyika? Let's go and see what is happening just across the whole town and all that. But even as we stood there, and we could not even trust anyone because that day there were even civilian cops. So you're walking while talking, and you don't even know whether the person behind you is a civilian. But even with the conversation around, mapping out, the goons and also beating them up and all that, where does that leave the sponsors of the goons who are at home watching? Where does that leave them? So that the burden is just not on us, like maybe killing or beating or picking out someone who's also struggling the way I'm struggling with unemployment. Where is the space of holding accountable the sponsors of the goons? Yeah.
I think that's something we can all think about because it's a question of accountability, and we can, in some instances, some of them will be named and shamed.
Yes.
But that doesn't take away from the fact that even if you hold these 10 sponsors this time, the problem still remains that these young people are radicalized. The narratives they have around taking back power or resistance actually is very different to what we're trying to say. So we can hold as many sponsors accountable, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the demands of the Gunzis are as valid as the demands of the Gen Zs. And so that is the underlying issue. How do we ensure that we build systems that are participatory so that when young people have to participate, that they know they have meaningful avenues guided by civil society leaders, accessing credible information on credible platforms that they can then drive action in a way that's positive.
Okay, that's a conversation to still continue having. But I want to come to Stephen even as we bring this conversation to a close and just have like 10 minutes for the audience. Should they have comments and questions? And I think given the background that you gave, how can then the young people leverage tech and AI to advance better leadership and democracy?
I think first of all, I like what he alluded on the issues of ethical considerations. We need to understand what are the biases and the bad side of AI, because AI as a tool is a transformative tool. And one of the things is also to understand what is AI, because there are people who don't even understand what that is. I had someone using a very bad joke, which I'll not use here. But what is AI and how do you use it? And how do you, because even when you're uploading something and you want to check out on, I love the way it was summarizing the finance bill, but there are some things that were not even correct in the summary. So first of all, we need to understand. And then we also need really just to get to understand how do we leverage on it, even when it comes to holding political leaders accountable. And this now shifts to how is even the government using the AI systems. For example, when you talk about transparency and accountability, service delivery, the other thing that is also so shocking the other day, I don't know if you guys, it's something that bothers you. this is just a digress a bit, just for consideration. When you are applying for the good conduct, the certificate of good conduct, what happens? So you go, they take your fingerprints, right? What happened when you're applying it for the second time? It's the same process, right? It's the same process. That's tiresome. I mean, why should you? Isn't that information stored that we can actually, when you're applying for the second time, you don't need to go through that entire process? Can it be simplified? And these are things that young people need to understand. How can AI be leveraged in that kind of a regard so that we don't have a backlog of service delivery? The other day I was in Rwanda, in Kigali. I mean, you mess up on the road, so the police are on your case the following day. You're not going to court and hustling with the judges and all these processes that some people are subjected into. Those are the things we need to understand, and then we need to advocate. So now that AI is all over the place, can we understand its modality, the way of operation? And then can we have young people who understand how it works, so that we can even help these government leaders and some of this institution of governance to understand how to leverage on it? As I come to a conclusion, there's a time I was, some 2 years back, I was volunteering and working for the Ministry of Youth Affairs. In that office, there are things that are just slow. I mean, these are things that should be automated. So can we have, as young people, understand and develop systems that can even help the government in terms of service delivery, and also helping helping service to be efficient even to the Mwananchi and the people who are even in the rural area, the places not in Nairobi? I think that those will be my reflections.
Thank you very much for the reflections. I just want to use the last 10 minutes to go to the audience for any questions, any comments. I have a lot of reflections from the conversations that have come from this panel. I'm happy to circle back with Forum Steve about that. But then let's have comments, questions. Okay, fantastic. So we'll have that table and then this table. Okay.
Good morning. Oh, in the afternoon. Oh, when the morning, bwana. Good morning. So my name is Kevin from the Technical University of Kenya. And I think one thing as Kenyans, we are overrepresented. From having 2,247 MCAs to having 349 MPs and to having 47 governors and 67 senators and some 470 county executives. One, the president himself has a bursary of 391.5 million last year. He was allocated 391.5 million. The MPs have a bursary of, had a bursary of 44.289 billion last financial year. Don't also, let us not also forget the women rep. We also have the MCAs. So this has created a lot of loopholes. By the time pesa inatoka kufikia mwananchi wa kawaida, imeibiwa na watu wengi sana. So this money, 50 billion plus can be taken and 50 billion plus inaweza chukuliwa iwekwe kwa a single entity ndo isaidie watu wenye wanasoma. And then comparing the Kibaki's era to the era we have now, the recurrent expenditure was 620 billion. Right now we have the recurrent expenditure of 1.4 trillion. Hiyo pesa imekuwa mingi sana kwa sababu ya overrepresentation. This financial year waliokota 4 billion. Out of 4 billion, only 770 billion, no, out of 4 trillion, only 750 billion ilitumika kwenda kwa development. That is not even a quarter of the whole budget. So don't you think we are overrepresented in this country? Thank you.
Let's clap for him. You know, it's important to be in spaces and you have your facts right, and they're very well researched, because then it helps us engage in very rich conversations. So thank you very much for that. Let's have that table. Let's take a minute each so we can have a bit more people for the next 10 minutes. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Janet Dete, representing Badili Africa. So my question was, from what Mr. Stephen Okanda had said, is that these people are once youths, and now they are disturbing us. And now that we as Gen Zs are trying to fight so that we also be in those positions and make a change. My worry is it that the issue is the entire system where there's decolonization? in that when we Gen Zs sit in those positions, we have the IMF where they're giving us loans and decolonizing us, and they have an influence on how maybe the leadership are run, and also influence on economic or political situations. So will that bring change, or we'll still get there and be like them as we get old?
Fantastic. Thank you for utilizing your 1 minute well.
So thank you for the 1 minute. My name is Makanga Kevin from Strathmore Business School with IPPG. I wanted to say one thing. There's something called the magic bullet theory, and there's another one called the hypodermic needle theory. So it says when the bullet is pointed at you, there's no way you're going to dodge it. And when the hypodermic syringe goes into your skin, there's no way you're going to resist its content. But I think that one has changed with the Gen Z. So what we've been said, building the trust among the movements, I could say something like, if these conversations are objective, then there's no way you're going to jump a process. So which process am I talking about? Because we are talking about the finance bill. We are talking about a public policy, right? So we begin by identifying the problem itself before we move into the process of, or the politics of policy making, into communicating the policy itself and that kind. So my advice is, through institutions like Forum Civ, could you help these young people to be trained in the cycle of policy making? Because they can't argue with the political class because they don't know the cycle of policy making. So the finance bill just came up. It came up because we missed up maybe in the public participation step. So how do we argue so that next time we don't miss the public participation step? So for me, training of young people in the policy making cycle.
Fantastic. Thank you for even coming up with solutions. That's more like it. Backbenchers, they're just coming up with big terms. Magic bullet theory, gunzi. The mic ikuje pia katikati and then in front. So let's just have the last two from the backbench so we can have like three, and then we get to the panel and close the meeting. Thanks. No, sorry, close the panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynette. I'm here courtesy of African Uncensored. So mine is a comment to the beautiful lady between the two gentlemen. I think she has been vocal about talking about the civic education, and the guy seated right next to him acknowledged the fact that it's not of participation. We should now acknowledge the fact that we need engagement, because even the Mama Mboga at Korogosho needs to be enlightened about these policies. And as the guy who has spoken before me has said, we need the education. The civic education needs to be spread. Some of the people who are in the streets who are not quite conversant with what was going on, but they were coming out because maybe back at home, there have been certain pains that they're seeing their parents go through. But the point about civic education and moving it from participation to engagement so that we can have a change, even as he has said, in the policy making process, so that we can have people who are representing us in the table when the policies are moving from stage 1 to stage 7. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. So let's have the middle and the front. I think we had fewer hands in the front. Thank you very much. I think let's have this table, and then we have that table as we move forward. I think for the panel, just maybe you can comment on aspects that border the work that you do, or the reflections that you've already made, or the responses that you've given. Yeah, thanks. The mic.
Aye.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Monaja. I'm an artist as well as a historian. And when we are doing an assessment of the protests that took place between June and July, if we are going to say with finality that we need leaders, won't we be missing out on one of the lessons of probably the biggest strength of the Gen Z movement, i.e. the decentralization setup? No one asked the doctors to go by their own volition and to be on standby and to deal with the injured. So the same thing can be said about the lawyers. Artists like myself released songs without any incentive. So might we be missing out on a big strength of the Gen Z movement? And how can we harness this decentralization? Being leaderless, and I admit that sometimes people can be charismatic and leaders can emerge, but how can that leaderless attribute be harnessed for future engagements? Thank you.
Thank and artistry, and thank you for that contribution as well. I think Monaja makes a very important point, and it goes to even what we're saying, Webin, that the weaponization and the narratives that this is a Gen Z thing and all that. And I think we also miss the point of how millennials contributed, especially their intellectual capital, you know, because we had lawyers who are coming to break down information, and then the Gen Z take that, whether it's to TikTok or they run away with that, or it just helps with the conversations they're having with their peers. So I think we also meet the intellectual capital bit that the other sectors did contribute, and also how they organized to support the Gen Z movement. So thanks for that contribution. Please, here, just two, and then we just come to the panel.
I will be biased against those who have had an opportunity before.
I shall leave that to you. We just have two, and then we come back to the panel. If you could just bear with us because of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Fradina, and thank you for seeing me at last. Karibu to reject quite a bit. But I have a comment that will lead me to a question. So even based on the conversation that we are having today and what the panel has been talking about, it's I remembered how over time we have been talking about the young people being disillusioned, disengaged, and acting as if they're not interested when it comes to governance and political issues. But for the first time, we showed up unafraid, and whenever they went low to the end of submarine, you know, it's either our way or the highway. But I applaud every young person that was there at the moment when we actually needed you most. But some of the issues that we put forward to be addressed were not actually addressed. For example, we said we want the head of state to send away his CSAs. But what we saw was a reshuffle and not actually any change of faces in the office. It's the same people who have been corrupt, we have been complaining about. And so my question would be, even as we do activism and every day we are talking about the issues that are ailing us as a country, how do we make the activism we do on a daily basis to result in actually tangible results that we can say, this is what we have achieved as young people? Because even in those faces that we saw, who is a Gen Z in that CS position? Don't we have educated people among us that can actually hold that office and run it effectively? So it also for us to ask ourselves as young people, where are we headed to and what do we need to prepare for that moment? Because we were told we are yet to celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This table, I think the front row one, I'm being told they have like 4 minutes. So I'll just donate one minute. And then I think the MC with his biasness, I don't know who is going to give the mic. And then you'll allow me to, yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Felicitas, and I'm representing Akili Dada today. So my point was to add on hers. How do we ensure, okay, yes, we were heard, yes, we were seen, but how do we ensure that our voice actually turns into action? And on another note, how do we ensure that we keep the spirit up? Yes, information is power. You guys guided us. You guys taught us what we needed to know. And now the Gen Z revolution has gone silent. It has gone a little bit down. How do we ensure that we keep the conversation going? How do we ensure that this spirit is going to guide us as we step into the next era, or as we go into civic preparation for elections and all that? How do we keep the conversation going?
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Please have this table, the last one, I think. Yeah, because there's one. So he'll represent all the Wababas, right? Because that's why I've just said the last one, because clearly, yeah, please. So if there's any other person in the room, please, yeah, let's just go back so that we can utilize the last 4 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I don't know if I can carry the Wababas with me. I'm George Awala. I work with VSO. Three things for me. So the first thing is young people really need to push for accountability. So some of the stuff that's happening, like what Morara is doing, if there can be 1,000, 100,000 mini Moraras in the constituencies at the ward levels, then I think the political class will realize that fire has been lit beneath them and they need to act. Then the other thing that we need to think about is also public debt. A lot of the talk is that we owe money externally, but the reality is that 68% of the public debt is local. It's local banks, it's local institutions. And this public debt, its repayment means that social services like education, health, and others can't get allocation. So there needs to be a deep conversation around public debt, which we are not having because maybe the focus is on other things. And then lastly, as we sit here, the state is crafting a Misinformation Act, which will be a double-edged sword in the sense that it will be used to curtail the civic space and the freedoms that we've enjoyed over time. And so it's really important to be vigilant. And it would be nice to also hear about what we can do to really stop the state from trying to cut some of these opportunities that the digital platforms and provides. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, just 1 minute. If you have, I'm sorry, but if you have something urgent, please write it down.
Yeah.
Blow it up after. My apologies for my biasness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, MC. So I've run 3 minutes past 12 already. So I'll just give us a minute each to just share what your thoughts are from what has come from the audience, as also you give us your closing remarks. Thanks. Sure, you can. No, I mean, you can start and then Ineza Isha na Gen Z. Acha tumalizie, you know now. Yeah, let's just finish with the Gen Z. You know.
I'm not sure this one is one.
Sure, you can have mine.
Thanks a lot. I think for me, the one thing that I think we should not forget or even lose sight of is the importance of protecting our constitution. And I get a bit worried. I understand the concern that Kevin was raising when we start talking about issues such as overrepresentation, because what might happen is we give the political class an opportunity to start tampering with the constitution that we have. So I don't think Kenyans are necessarily overrepresented. I think they are badly represented. I think those are two different problems. I think we need to fix the poor representation, but let us protect that constitution. When the moment comes to change it, we will do it, but it is not now, because we will be hit by things that we are not even prepared for. I think the other key point for me is we can sit in forums like this, and I don't know, Bina, whether you remember that we have been in the political arena together, right? When Bina was running for MCA, I was also in the KNC party. We were trying to produce a president, and we saw amazing things in this country, including kuchapwa na mawe when we went for rallies. Right? So we also must really put the effort, and I like the pivot towards political education, to understanding what exactly does it take to produce a leader. Because it is one thing for us to be here talking the theory, but the reason why these people keep beating us is because they understand those dynamics on the ground. So we must move beyond just civic education, understand the political system as it is and how it operates, why those ethnic dimensions seem to matter so much, why violence is so important to the political outcomes that we get, and then start fighting on all those fronts, rather than just engaging on the policy conversations only. And I think I will end it there.
So my last takeaways is it's time to get more organized, especially as young people. We need to equip citizens with the necessary resources and tools that they need to be able to take action. And to sustain citizen engagement, we need to promote more of everyday activism because it can't be an event. Revolution is not an event. We can't just show up one day and then go home and think that things will change. There are so many problems. Even as we were protesting against the finance bill, there were other problematic bills going on. And so how do we sustain citizen engagement? I like that she asked, how do we go forward? And I think I'll conclude with my call to action, which is to invite you all to a civic tech platform that we are developing right now to empower and amplify citizen engagement through public education, community engagement, and networking events. And we hope to leverage some of these insights from public opinions and social trends to be able to have the data to hold leaders accountable, as well as promote participatory decision making. So if you'd like to partner and collaborate, or if you'd like more information on how you can be a part of Active Citizens, which is this digital platform, then yeah, let's talk after this. Thank you.
Want to. Yeah, I will say the very words in the Constitution, we, the people of Kenya. And it's interesting that we don't have any other country. And we need to do everything within our own conviction to protect every last bit of this country. We cannot relegate power to the very people who are muzzling us. And the Constitution gives us the very power that we need to have as citizens. If you are a student of democracy, you'll understand that democracy is what? What is democracy? What is democracy? That is rumors. What is democracy? We can say it together. What is democracy? No, that one, Bina, we have to say that before we finish. What is democracy? Is the power to the people, right? The government where the power belongs to the people. We have relegated this power to the very leaders, and we need to hold them to account. Some of these terminologies like broad-based government and these sweet terminologies that pop up every now and then, we need to interrogate them and make sure that we stand for what is right. The other thing I will also want to mention, because I see the room is full of young people, stand for what is right. Don't sacrifice your integrity for a few coins. Stand for integrity. If you stand for integrity, you have the moral authority to call leaders to account. But if you do not have personal integrity, it's going to be so difficult. The last thing, speak out. Just learn how to communicate. When the mic is handed over to you, speak like someone who has been informed. Make sure you understand the key documents that our lives and the lives of the Kenyans are pegged on. And I want also just to invite you guys, as an individual, I help people also know how to communicate and empower themselves to know how to communicate better. And with that regard, as a Gen Z, I've also written a book on public speaking and communication that helps people to communicate better. Today I just came with around 7 copies, but you can get the book on Amazon. Please learn how to communicate. That is the only tool that we can use to transform this country. Thank you.
Surely, even ushaandika kitabu, the pressure is getting worse. You know, me, I'm a Gen Z old model. I'm a Gen Z old model, you know, but I'm a millennial. Also, thank you very much. Please help me appreciate the panel. And help me appreciate ourselves, the reflections. Even if we didn't have time to speak, let's just appreciate ourselves again. And also help me appreciate Forum C for bringing us together. So many reflections to have, such a rich conversations. I just want to quickly highlight, how do we build a civic consciousness that emanates from the grassroots? A pertinent question that was asked that we've also tried to reflect on a little bit. And then we had a question as well from the audience, but also a response to reflect on. Are we overrepresented or are we badly represented? I think it's a question to reflect on. And what does it take to produce a leader in this country? I wish I had space. I think at Badili Africa, we have a screening next week. It's called the Women Kingmakers. And part of the question we'll be looking at is when we say people go and vote, because it's easy to tell someone to go and vote, are we also assuming that everyone is going to vote because of good leadership? Are you voting because you've been promised a bursary? And how does that bursary prevent you from seeing the benefits of good leadership, right? So I think we have to interrogate most of these questions. And then also reflections on how do we build technologies that are inclusive and that are designed by the people who use them? Because that is a deficiency we see, especially in Africa, where we don't even own this technology. And even what has happened with the Gen Z movement, I think one of the gaps that we have to be very keen on is the fact that even for the tech companies, you can imagine the repository they have of our voices, of everything. So if even when it comes to cloning, they have enough data on you to clone you. And you even saw some of the activists who are being cloned during this Gen Z movement, and you're listening to it, and you cannot decode whether it is them or it's not them. Unless you know them in person, the bulk of the public will think it's you, right? And right now, the tech platforms have enough repository because most of us were joining, laughing, speaking, contributing. So what does that mean in terms of posing danger when it comes to protecting our democracy? And then we also have a question on how do we prepare young people for value-based leadership, even as we look at their participation in the 2027 election? A conversation for partners to still continue having, and every actor who's invested in that space to also be very keen on. And I think also there was a thank you very much from the question on the state is crafting a misinformation act currently that might curtail our voices and our freedom that is protected by the Constitution. How do we intend to engage? And lastly, being out of the streets does not mean the movement has died. How are we organizing better? Are we being mobilized or are we organizing better? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Maybe we can appreciate Bina better. I think it's a difficult conversation, but the weight and the way she's been able to navigate. So I would ask her to take a photo with the panelists, just as a moment to remember. So photo guys in the room. And as they take the photo and the conversations, I'd like to call on stage just to break the ice that we've had and the conversations. An artist for a performance, so as they prepare. I would also want to recognize a few people who've joined us. I see the Nairobi County Department of Youth is with us here in the room. So a round of applause. We also have thank you so much. So help me applause as they take their seats. Thank you so much, Daktari, for the wisdom, and everybody else in the panel. I'd also like to recognize Haki Africa. I think we had recognized them before, but I see Hussein. I would ask Hussein to please wave because he's been on the forefront in this battle. Thank you so much, Hussein, for making time to be with us. I saw Crew. Crew is also with us. So thank you so much for making time to be with us. Women Human Rights Defenders Hub. I know the ED is here with us as well. Thank you so much, and a colleague for joining us. I'm doing this so that we can have a performance before we move into the main piece of the event today. So Wangoi Kimani, let's cheer her as she comes on stage. Makofi tafadhali. Karibu sana. You need a stand? You need a stand.
Long live. Thank you so much for that. My name is Wangoi Kemani, and for the bragging rights, I'm among the 20 activism fellows for 2024. That's where you clap. My performance is not AI generated. It's all my creativity. And I'm joined by the amazing Tajio, who is over there. Kindly a round of applause for him as well. Thank you. Let's do this. Tell them. I said, tell them. Mere maũndũ mau na ti mere kana matatũ. Mere maũndũ mau mekire nĩgetha tũgĩe na wĩyathi-rĩ. Maũndũ mau no mũtũreka. Mere tũtirĩ na mbia cia kũgũra guoya. Turn to your neighbor and tell them. Tell them. Some of you are just on their phones. Tell them. Tell them. Tell your neighbor. Tell them. Tell them. E Mungu, hatuna nguvu. Hizi baraka ulitaka ziletwe kwetu zinakuwa hijacked daily. Na hawa viongozi ulisema leaders come from you. Wanakuchomea vipropa. Haki ya nani hakuna haki. Aliyefaa kufungua milango ana gatekeep. Kwa gates, mlinzi amelala, hatuko safe. Our men in uniform wanatumok tukisema na tukae na undugu amani na hatuna raha. Daily ni karaha. Mnazidi kuongeza color red kwa hii flag. Yo white kidogo imebaki mnazidi kuificha by creating more chaos. Nashangaa wanaosimama na haki wanaangushwa daily. So tell them. Tell them. Mere maũndũ mau na ti mere kana matatũ. Mere maũndũ mau mekire nĩgetha tũgĩe na wĩyathi-rĩ. Maũndũ mau no mũtũreka. Mere tũtirĩ na mbia cia kũgũra guoya. Against your neighbor. Tell them. Tell them. Tell them. Tell them. Amkeni ndugu zetu. Ni sada wamelala forever. Life zao zilikatiwa short na hii serikali ya mkono refu. Yani daily we are trying to put a meal on the table. Na nyinyi daily mnataka aliye chini endelee kuwa chini, if possible 6 feet under. Mnatukanyaga right on our necks. Officer, I can't breathe. Hewa nayo imejaa gas. Manze najaa gas nikiona mother analia juu mtoi wake hakurudi home. Halafu hadi kwa hii national anthem natuambia na tujitoe kwa nguvu. Nguvu gani tena? So tell them. Tell them. Mere maũndũ mau na ti mere kana matatũ. Mere maũndũ mau mekire nĩgetha tũgĩe na wĩyathi-rĩ. Maũndũ mau no mũtũreka. Mere tũtirĩ na mbia cia kũgũra guoya. So do what? Tell them. Tell them. Na tujenge taifa letu. Najua ni wajibu wetu kujenga hili taifa. But si kama foreman anakula kitu. Anakula kila kitu. Si after kupea mwananchi high hopes then unamuondolea ngazi. Si after kumwacha expectant with no intention ya kukua midwife. Si after kumwandikia death kwa sentence alitunga willingly. Yani daily. Tuna try to survive. We're just trying to survive. Every day we are just trying to survive. Tumekuwa the fittest for the longest. But sahi ni kama survival. Kama survival. Tumekuwa for the richest. So do what? Tell them. Mere maũndũ mau. Na ti mere kana matatũ. Mere maũndũ mau mekire nĩgetha tũgĩe na wĩyathi-rĩ. Maũndũ mau no mũtũreka. No mere atĩrĩrĩ. Tũtirĩ na mbia cia kũgũra guoya. So tell them. Tell them. Tell them. That's where you clap. Okay. Thank you. I just want to tell you a short story before I begin the second piece. So every time I complain, my mom is one person who always makes me to be like on toes, on toes, on toes. And every time I complain, after I'm done complaining, here niuliza aje, what you gonna do now? Okay? What you gonna do now? And I want you to look at your neighbor and ask them, when you are done complaining, what you gonna do now? Okay? To your neighbor, ask them, when you are done complaining, what you gonna do now? When you are done complaining, what you gonna do now? I hope you're asking your neighbor what they gonna do when they're done complaining. What you gonna do now? Thank you. What you gonna do now? Ni hivyo, hiyo ingine utamuuliza baadaye. Power to you. That's where it belongs. I see light at the end of the tunnel, and I hope Kenya Power credit for this. Naona mataa zinawaka mtaani, Kipyus Muiru kuna nuru gizani. Sita iseme itatutake miezi 9. On the Daily Nation iko expectant. Kudeliver ndo imekuwa tricky kiasi. Hii generation kaka enjoy inatuweka on toes. On your marks, get set, go. Go to the people and teach them their rights. Sometimes Wanjiko haelewi history ya rights. Sometimes Wanjiko haelewi history ya AI. Mama mboga anashangaa nani ndo anabonga rights. So go forth and teach them. Each one, teach one. Thank you. Each one. And before we start pointing fingers, let it linger in your mind that we need to check ourselves if we are part of the problem. Let's not be among the lot that write poems, sing songs, make policies, then sit back and wait for change. Change is not lame. It crawls if it can't walk. So walk your what? Walk your talk. Talk, talk, talk. Huku we don't, mama. Lugha tunaweza ongea ya mama. Oma totka hujia maya alafu huwa ine torea refi. Asha, tunaweza tembea hadi kwa hizi lami, hoping that freedom will come today. Walioangushwa wakiwa kwa hizi lami, Sado amelala forever. Akia nani hata mnyonge ana haki. Amaje? Haki. Ana haki. And this is the point that my mom would look at me and ask me, Wangui, are you done complaining? So, what you gonna do now? To your neighbor again. Ask them.
What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now?
Ask them.
What you gonna do now?
After you're done complaining.
What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do now?
I'm also wondering what you gonna do.
What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now?
So this is what I'm gonna do. Drop my anger, pick up my power, release myself from the shackles of oppression and fear that holds my power back. I look for solutions. I make solutions. I walk to doors. I knock on doors. I talk to doors. I make my own doors. They don't exist. And I'm not here to mention names of people that hold so much power. Names that are engraved in our history books. Names that you and me know by name. And I respect each and everyone who has come before us and made history. Respect to them. But for today, it's for the people that might never appear on the history books. The people that we or our children might never know about. And I know each and every one of you has someone in mind. They might never appear in the history books. We might never know about them, but they'll be mentioned in a room full of change makers. Amaniaje? So just shout their name. If you know someone who is making change and they might never appear on the history book, say out their names. And I will start with my mother, Regina Wajira. Shout their names. Say their names. you will appear on history. And for the poets and artists who risk their lives to say things that you can't say. And for each and every of the next gen fellows, it's time for you guys to continue making history. So don't preach water and drink wine. And so after complaining, what you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now?
Ask your neighbor again.
What you gonna do now?
After complaining, hatuwezi shinda
What you
tukicomplain.
gonna do now? What you gonna do now?
Let's jump to this.
What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now?
I can see you guys asking your
What you
neighbors.
gonna do now?
Hold your neighbors accountable.
What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? Yeah, what you gonna do now? What you gonna do now?
Round of applause for Tajeo. Thank you. And now a round of applause for me.
Thank you so much. I think I would love you to stay on stage because, yes, please, you will be a solo panel. And as I do that, we can do better in applauding her, please. The question of the moment, what are you going to do now, not tomorrow? So at this point, I'd like to call Steve Biko on stage as our artist stays there, because that question of, even our guitarist, please don't move, because that will be our background as we move to the next stage of getting the launch of the fellowship. And I know they are working on some profiles, but in the spirit of storytelling, as we wait for you to take breath and then energize us again with, you remind me of some revolution songs. Talking about a revolution. Oh. I think mimi kwa wababa ndio, I'm the youngest mbaba and I'm the oldest millennial. So niko hapo katikati. So those were songs that would energize a revolution. So after this, tutapatana nyuma ya hema. But in the spirit of storytelling, and I know there are very interesting things that have come out here. During the movement, a friend of mine shared a very interesting story, and I'm picking up the cue from Shadrach, who started storytelling. And he said, if you decide today you are going back to the 1950s and you want to go hunting, and you have your pack of dogs, and then you get to the forest, and along the way, because the foxes have a way of communicating with the dogs, they decide to join you on the hunt. And then, unfortunately, you don't end up being successful with the hunt. What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen? The foxes and the dogs are cousins, right? And remember, you did not invite the foxes to the hunt. So, at the risk of going hungry, wanasema, tuko na chips, funga wapi? So they will turn against. So I'm saying that because a lot of the people have said we fought for something, but there are others who have joined along the way. So the foxes and the dogs, in quote and unquote, have joined. And what are they eating? Yeah? Yo, I think will be answered on what are you going to do now. So reflect on that. And I hope we are now ready, Abdul, for it. Great. So Biko, the floor is yours. And I think the panelists who say the power belongs to the people as Steve comes, forgot the most important thing, that we may or shall So what are we choosing to use right now? We shall. So, and we shall call that power back when we want. Biko karibu stage.
Thank you, TK. A round of applause for TK. I think you've done some good job. Yes. And now we come to that moment where we want to now unleash a very beautiful and very energetic, promising team. Are you eager to know about them? There's some silence at the back. Are we eager to know about them? All right. So just like Jackson had earlier on mentioned, we got a team of 20 promising, youthful, young leaders that we want to take through the process of mentorship, coaching, right? Skills, upskilling, etc., so that they excel in whatever spaces they occupy. These 20 young people are from across the country, okay? So it's not one specific county, because I know a number of times you might be biased to find representation from only one county or two counties, all right? So I'd like, with much respect and humility, to call upon the fellows who are joining us physically. Join me on stage here. And then we have 5 of them who are joining us virtually. So kindly just join me on stage. You know yourselves, kindly. I don't want to shout your names. Kindly applause as they come. Just line up. Yes. So amongst, in this team, as we had mentioned earlier on, we have 2 persons with disability represented, 9 female, 10 male, and 1 non-binary also in the team. I'd like to, yes, I see the technical is ready now. I'd like to introduce them or to give them a minute or less each to just tell us who they are, their home county, and what they look forward to in this fellowship. And I'll start with Maureen.
Hello, I'm Maureen Terrer. I'm from Kericho County. I have an economics background, more statistics around econometric modeling, worked a lot in the development sector. So this for me is a practical experience. Rather than looking at projects from the M&E side of things, evaluating projects, I would love to be part of actually designing and being in the field. So I think that for me is that opportunity, and also working with people who have done this before me, who have started their own NGOs, for instance, and they've actually worked. So I think this for me is that opportunity, but also to meet a diverse group of people, as it seems we're going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. We go to Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Warindi. Warindi is my preferred name. I say that because in Kikuyu, the name for a group of people is Kerede, and I love working with many people at the same time. I'm also a podcaster. I host the Make Way for Youth podcast, and my background is in youth development and gender equality. So what I'm looking forward to in this fellowship is networking with the amazing people on stage here, and also gaining practical experience. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Joseph Sila. My home county is Machakos County, and I'm from Wamuzi Foundation. Wamuzi Foundation is a social enterprise that focuses on civic engagement and civic education. But as I've learned today, it's not civic education, but political education. That's one thing I'll also take back to my colleagues. Glad to be here, glad to be part of this fellowship.
To be or not to be is not the question. To thine own be true. My name and the bio, as you can see on the screen, I'm Ivuza Kilibwa, or you can call me Timothy. I'm a financial modeling and valuation analyst and an aspiring CIFA. I come from Kirigiti, Kiambu. And but I also, my work takes me back to Nairobi County in Comoros specifically, and Kayole. I'm a community champion, and yes, I'm a podcaster also. I do just a pod on African sexuality. Via Tamale, who's a former lecturer at the Makerere University. I was introduced to her courtesy of a friend doing the same. The expectation, I expect to mingle with these guys over here and learn more from them. And also, yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. Applause. Let's have Stephen.
All right, good afternoon. Oh, it's afternoon. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and to be among these great leaders of our country. Kenya has hope, a lot of hope. And for me, this is an opportunity for me just to empower the dexterity of my leadership and governance. Governance issues really bother me, especially when they're not done in the right way. And just looking at what the first world countries are doing and the potential that we have as a country. By God's grace, I've had an opportunity to go to Dar es Salaam and Rwanda. And looking at the potential we carry as a country, we need to surpass all those countries. So I pray that this program is going to empower me to think to think like a first world country, but also contextualize it into our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have Sheila. Sheila is joining us virtually. She can be the last. Okay. Let's have Katrina.
Nothing for us without us. Yeah. You can borrow that. It's from the disability community where I come from, where they are the community I represent. My name is Katrina Nyambura. I'm a disability advocate. I'm also an MC, social media manager, public speaker. I'm a youth mentor, among other things. Why am I here? What am I looking forward to from this? I'm looking forward to having my community, the disability community, being on the table. We are so tired of being not even on the menu, under the table, you know. We get things, they were done, and now we are being told, okay, and you're here. You know, this is what we got. And we are like, it doesn't fit me. Yeah. So I'm here for us to get an opportunity to be on the table in the decision-making panel, to be partners so that we can feel that, yes, we are here and we do matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have Macklin.
Good afternoon. I'm Ora Macklin from Kisumu County. I'm a student, University of Nairobi. I'm passionate about food innovation, food security, and also SDG 2 and SDG 3, which is zero hunger and good health and well-being. So right now I'm working on innovations, actually 3, and I'm hoping that they'll turn out successfully. From this program, I hope to be mentored so that I can achieve my full potential.
Thank you.
I'm Jambo. Yeah, my name is Chris. That is me there. I run I run a community-based organization in Nyandarua County by the name of ACDC, and I'm also a budget facilitator with Budget Hub in Nyandarua. So for me, this fellowship is important because I do budget and policy advocacy, and I work with a team of budget champions. Just yesterday, we were participating in the finance bill, public participation for Nyandarua 24-25 financial year. So I look forward to learning and, of course, networking. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Evans from Sia County. Evans is a accountant by profession, and I'm also a mentor. I'm running a CBO in my local community for mentorship on small-scale farmers on food security. I'm looking forward for networking with my fellows on how we can fight poverty and empower many other people. Thank you.
Thank you. Kerry? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Kerry Muita Omome. I'm from Migori County. I'm a student of law at Mount Kenya University, and I'm also a social justice national ambassador at Kenya Nimimi, youth advocate at Naya Kenya, and advocacy champion at Nguvu Collective. So I'm very thrilled to be joining this fellowship, and my expectations are that I'm going to scale my advocacy goals. I've been active in the fields of human rights, specifically on gender equality and social justice, the broader social justice spectrum. So I expect to be mentored, of course, to network, scale my advocacy, and reach limitless potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph Macharia. Joseph?
Simunye, when I say Simunye, you say Sisonke. Simunye, Sisonke. Good afternoon. So my good name is Joseph Macharia from Nairobi County. I'm a mental health practitioner, a psychologist, and also I'm a digital youth advocate working for Nairobi's Trust. It is a youth-led organization that normally deal with the tech. So partly for me, I normally integrate mental health with matters to do with population health and also environment. So for me, such a platform, it is good for me because I can be able to synergize, collaborate, partner. And like early in the morning, I was talking to my good fellow Evans, and I saw areas where we can partner and build a good rapport for the benefit of our community. So it's a good platform for me so that I can be able to scale up whatever that I'm doing in my community. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fradina McKenna. I have a background in community development and a current master student of gender and development. And I'm happy to be one of the fellows. I like calling myself a gender and democracy champion because that is literally what I do. So what I'm passionate about, I've grown up in the village. Yes, in Meru County, in the village. And growing up, I've witnessed a lot of ladies drop out of school due to early pregnancy. And also recently, there has been a rise in female genital mutilation, or what we call FGM, in Meru County. And so I'm here. I've been doing it online, activism and all that. But maybe in part of this program, it will enable me get the practical skills so that I can move my activism online and just go and provide the solutions to my community. I'm already doing it, but this will help me better it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Donald, who's joining us all the way from Kakamega, but I'll just read briefly. So he's an experienced youth leader and event organizer with over 6 years in entertainment industry. As a director at Connect Marketing Agency, he leads a talented team in Kakamega, holds a certificate in business management from Masinde Muliro University, and is currently pursuing a diploma in procurement. He's committed to corporate social responsibility, supporting youth in agribusiness, street children, and PWD youth, an aspiring politician, and is preparing to run for office in 2027. A round of applause for Donald. Then we have Diana, who's physically present. Okay.
Afternoon. My name is Diana Andenya. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Nairobi, Bachelor of Arts, Political Science major. I run a CBO in Madare, focusing on sexual reproductive health and rights, and generally campaigning to end the end period poverty campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Ruto. So Ruto is also joining us virtually. Excuse me, it's a double T, okay? Yeah. So we have Ruto Kamama joining us all the way from Baringo County, has a beautiful story. He is a well-known personality in Baringo County and Tiaty constituency, not just because he's a son of prominent parents, but he had to overcome great obstacles to become a renowned motivational speaker and addiction counselor. Ruto is a certified addiction professional, accredited by NACADA, and a motivational speaker. So Ruto is a reformed drug addict, and he has a beautiful story. Round of applause for Ruto. Next, we have Collins, who's joining us here. Yep.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I know most of you are worried that this is a son of an MP because he's being guided to the stage. But it's all about my sight. I'm visually impaired, and I'm very proud of being a visually impaired, and I would encourage you also to be like me. I'm here. I'm a student at the University of Nairobi, second year, and I'm very proud to be one of the cohort of 2024. I'm very passionate about encouraging people living with disability to get to tertiary institutions, whereby I told my friends, Kina Rachel, that I have a program called A Safe Space, that through this program, I'll be able to get skills through friends like Brian. I love people who love democracy, because Brian, I've been very keen when you're speaking, and I love what you're talking. Can we just give Brian a round of applause? So, my hometown is Bomet, and I'm a Kalenjin. Thank you.
Thank you. Paris? Paris?
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. First and foremost, I'm very happy to be here. My name is Paris. As you can see there, Wangare. I come from Nakuru County, and I'm a cerebral palsy advocate, and I'm also a mental health advocate. Recently, I was certified to be a lay counselor. That comes in handy to the PWD community, especially the parents and caregivers who are looking after their young ones who has disabilities. And I'm happy that in this fellowship, the PWD, the community that I serve, has been included. I'm very happy for that. Thank you for the inclusion. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to upgrade my leadership skills. I'm running an organization, it's a CBO, Other for Others Foundation, back in Nakuru, and I support families, children who have disabilities, and especially the neurodiverse disabilities, the neurodiverse condition, autism, cerebral palsy, and the likes. That is what I do, and I started the organization due to my own personal story. I had a son. He passed on a year ago. He had cerebral palsy. So I've been leading from the heart. This is from passion. But being in this fellowship, I know now I'll gain the skills that I'll be needing in my journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have Awa joining us all the way from Kisumu County. So Hawa is a dynamic leader, focused on youth empowerment, gender equality, community development. She founded and team lead of Hope Rekindled initiative. She drives innovative programs addressing mental health, reproductive health, menstrual hygiene, and sexual and gender-based violence. With a bachelor's degree in environmental science from Maseno University, She employs a behavior change communication model to tackle issues like period poverty and youth empowerment. She facilitates comprehensive sexual education in Kisumu County schools and advocates for sustainable menstrual products. A round of applause for Hawa. Then we have Jefferson. Yes, so Jefferson Mudaki is a passionate African youth leader from West Pokot County, dedicated to empowering marginalized youth and women. As a founder director of Declare's Inspirational Group Kenya, he champions the meaningful inclusion of young people in decision-making spaces across various sectors, including health, climate change, and gender issues. He has over 5 years of experience in policy advocacy, grassroots mobilization, and organizational development, notably leading efforts to amplifying youth voices in pastoralist communities. Rounds of applause for Jefferson. And the technical team, probably you can maybe beam the snap of the team that is joining us virtually so that they wave at us.
Mere, this is the part you sing.
What you gonna?
Okay, as they work on that, I'd like to welcome. Oh yes, I see Jefferson. The 4 others. Okay, seemingly maybe they have dropped out. But at this point, I'd like to welcome Jackson on stage to kindly usher in this team to the fellowship officially launched. And then. I know the ushering team and the protocol team is also working on something that we'll be starting and enjoying in the next few minutes. Karibu sana Jackson. Round of applause as it comes. What you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now?
Now that you're a fellow.
Jackson, what you
Let
gonna
me
do
invite
now?
on stage as well, Dr. Kama,
What you gonna
Shadrach,
do now?
and I want also to invite the Gen Z Raf. Come.
What you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now?
Going to do something. We are going to do something now. Just watch. Before, I want to make. I stand between you and the cake. You know, now I need to make one more remark before the official launch.
What you gonna do na 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 na?
What you gonna do now?
Okay, a minute now. A minute. The NextGen Leaders Fellowship Program, powered by Forum Civ in partnership with Strathmore University, is hereby today launched for the first inaugural cohort 2024. And I want you to put your hands together so that, and for those who can be able to make a good shout, to officially launch this program, Next Generation Fellowship Program, the first cohort 2024 is hereby officially launched.
What you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now?
We can all join with the reggae jam. Simame with that reggae jam. What you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What
You gonna do now? What you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now? Yeah, what you gonna do now? Oh, now what you gonna do now? Yeah, what you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now?
What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Worry not, nobody's burning out. As such, an event can't just end without having a cake. And this amazing team are going to lead us in cutting the cake because they are the inaugural cohort, and I will want to see how they feed all this team because leaders to see that everybody gets all, but you want everybody. Oh, they want the do the official cutting of the cake. Is there a song for?
As we start the cake and celebrate the new leaders who are joining. Unanikuta tu hapo. Nilikuwa neighbor wako. Just to end now. Okay. So I'd like to call on stage Maureen Terer. Maureen, one of the fellows. You're here. So prepare for your closing remarks, your leadership moment. All right. So nani hajapata keki? Ndio tuonane na cake matron nyuma ya hema. Your hands are busy. So you Oh, haya mimi sikuwa nimepata. Thank you so much. Yeah. So thank you so much. And I'm asked by the photo team, the fellows, you find a moment to organize yourselves for a group photo, either after we leave. Jackson, you know you are the final person to say leadership test. Have they passed the leadership test? Not yet. Okay. Ah. So as we do that, I'd like to call on stage Maureen to do the closing remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. The newly elected leader is speaking. So please, attention.
I guess the fellowship has kicked off, and this is my first assignment to do the closing remarks. So we've come to an end to what has been a really insightful International Day of Democracy. And first, I'd just like to extend my deepest gratitude to all of you for spending your Friday with us, for sharing your thoughts, for sharing your insights. It's been lovely to meet you all and to hear the experiences, especially with everything that has happened this year. And thank you for your participation and your engagement as well. I think this year's International Day of Democracy has been really important, especially on the backdrop of everything that has happened this here with the Mandamanos. I think this has been an opportunity for us to reflect on everything that happened during that period and how we're going to move forward from this. How we're going to keep the movement going and how we're going to sustain civic engagement or political education, as we're trying to call it now. So I'd like to thank you all. I think we have reflected pretty well on that. We've also learned about artificial intelligence and its influence on democracy, the good, the bad, and how we're going to be able to responsibly apply it. I think also in the youth, the Gen Zs have really showed us that they're capable, that they can actually take the mantle and move forward. So it's really important for us to figure out how we're going to empower this group, how we're going to keep them engaged. I think Strathmore has also touched on how academia has been really important and how we can play a role in democracy. So on that note, I would love to extend a round of thanks to different groups of people, to the speakers, to the panelists, and to everyone that openly shared and expressed their experiences and reflections of everything that happened during the Mandamanos. And to Forum Civ, thank you for a well thought out program and a chance for different stakeholders to get a chance to give their thoughts and for us to reflect on our country, our democracy, and how we're going to move forward. Thank you for putting this together. It's been a really insightful program. And a special thanks to my fellows. I wanted to say that for a while. It's an honor to be part of this fellowship. And I think if this is anything to go by, how engaging it's been, I think we're going to enjoy our 6 months. It's going to be a really rewarding experience. So I'm looking forward to going on this journey with you. So thank you, everyone. I think there's lunch. There's lunch, right? Yeah. There's lunch, so please don't leave. I'm sure the people who still had questions, they didn't get a chance to ask. So this is your chance to just ask those questions and network. And watu wa sherehe, I guess the weekend has begun. So I wish you a lovely weekend, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. A better applause. It was a State of the Fellows address, right? So thank you so much, Maureen. So with that, I think we've come to the end of our program and engagement for today. Our partners, we wish to thank you so much for sparing time to be with us. And for me, being here as your MC, I'd like to, as people live silently, our fellow Kenyans, we still have a program to run. So as you live silently, I'd like to leave you with two things. One, from the panel, as they've said, the pattern is very predictable. The leaders and the politicians know this game and they're already organizing. The question is, are we organizing? And then lastly is, I read and I quote verbatim here from one of the politicians. They said, the principle is indivisible. It is either wholly kept or wholly sacrificed. What you gonna do? Are we going to keep it holy or are we going to sacrifice it holy? So thank you very much. I've been your MC. They call me TK. I work at Forum Civ. I lead the inclusive growth work, and it's been amazing sharing these moments with you. Asanteni sana. You're invited for lunch. Thank you so much.